again for another episode of Chasing Labels. This is episode number or spine number 156, and I am your host, Andrew. And we are back here once again to discuss many of the things that have happened in the world of boutique labels, announcements, and home video, and all kinds of stuff movie related within the last little bit of a time frame, basically within the last 2 weeks or so. For those of you joining me here for the first time here on Chasing Labels, we get into, like I just said, release news, announcements, whatever else we like to talk about in a specific, framing amount of time. Things that I like, things that I perhaps want to add to my collection, things that you want to perhaps add to your collection, things that just interest me in general when it comes to the boutique label world of announcements over the last little while. Um, yeah, this is episode or spine number 156, and we are moving right along. This is the second episode of the calendar year of 2025, and already so many things have happened. It's January every single year seems like it goes on forever, and it's jam packed full of everything and anything. And my goodness, what a year it's been. And it's only 21 days into it. My goodness here. But thank you all for joining me, whether you're listening on the podcast form and the audio form, on whatever format you're listening to, whatever place you're listening to, whether you're watching the live stream, whether it be live or whether it be in the future. Thank you all for joining me. And my goodness, let's get into some things here before we dive into the recent announcements. Hopefully, this episode or this spy number will not be as long as the previous one. That was a gargantuan episode previously on spine number or episode number 155 that ran for nearly 4.5 hours. We're talking epic Cecil B. DeMille level of runtime for that release, because there was just so much to go over. There was so much that happened within the month time frame because I had taken off a good portion of the month of December and then the first week of January, pretty much, or first couple of days of January. So there was a whole month's worth of announcements to go over in that episode. So it was kind of a double episode. It was a double episode, double album, if you like to refer to it in music terms. But this episode will perhaps not be that long. Hopefully, we're back down to the usual level. I'm trying to keep it under 3 hours, not only for you as the listener or you as the viewer, but for me as the host as well. It is a lot to go through here just all by myself. But we have some comments here already. Jeff K is here. He says, good evening, Jeff, with his lovely little avatar to share Mufune and Yojimbo. Humboldt Horror Honey, or Corin Humboldt. I believe you changed your name. I'm assuming the same person. Hello. And then some other greetings here as well. But first and foremost, we have to address this situation that happened most recently as of last week. The passing of the legendary, the great David Lynch. As I mentioned last year, I believe last summer, he had announced that he had emphysema and that his health had declined as a result of that. And of course, at the time here on Chasing Labels, and I think the whole movie world in general, wished him well. And unfortunately, he passed away last week, and it was a big blow to many of us. David Lynch being an artist in the truest form, not only in the cinema world, but I think just in general, people loved him in just the art world in and of itself. I know for me personally, it hit so hard. David Lynch for me was one of my favorite filmmakers, inspirations, artists, persons of all time in terms of so many aspects of my life. I think because he did so much in terms of things outside of movies. He did music. He had his whole thing with meditation and all kinds of stuff. A true artist. And for me, the very bedrock of my love of cinema, movies as an art form, as an avant-garde piece of artwork, is all based off of him. It really has been getting into his movies at a young age in my probably early 20s was a very much a gateway into the world of surrealism and to the world of, like I said, avant-garde, art house cinema, things like that. And he, man, I studied his work so much. There's still so much to get out of it. So I want to take a few moments here to obviously acknowledge his passing and just the broad spectrum of people who have made tribute to him and people who have spoken about him and his work and people who knew him and worked with him obviously. But for me personally, um one of the I would say one of the early parts of my collection was collecting David Lynch films. Early on, I think Blue Velvet, I've had on DVD, I've had on Blu-ray. There's a 4K of it out now, which I don't have, but I have a stack of all of his work here with me, and I would like to, quickly go through it. Should have set this up a little bit better, but we have, of course, Eraserhead. Um, Talk about avant-garde cinema. The first time I watched this movie, it blew me away so much that it rattled me. This movie rattled me to my core. And then, of course, we have The Elephant Man, a beautiful elegy and artwork piece of film that is just mesmerizingly deep and poignant and just stunning work of cinema. One of the greatest films probably ever made. And then we have kind of his great, I would say, not catastrophe, a movie that he kind of disowned throughout his life, and that is Dune. Um, I would have loved if we had eventually would have gotten his actual cut of this movie. There is an Arrow 4K, there's an Arrow Blu-ray release of this, and I haven't gotten it yet because I didn't rush out to get it because it was, like I said, it was a film that he really didn't view as his film. I believe it had been taken away from him in post, and there's two cuts of the movie. There's a theatrical cut and I think an extended cut, neither of which are his preferred cut of the movie. Obviously, I don't think we'll ever get that, unfortunately. And then we have a movie that shook me to the core first time I watched, and that is Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet being, oh my goodness, his first time, it was second time working with Kyle MacLachlan. Of course, you have Dennis Hopper, you have Laura Dern, you have Isabella Rossellini in this film as well. This film what an immense work. My goodness, so much to say about um small town neighborhoods and the things that go on behind it and whatnot. Very much a critique of the Leave It to Beaver era of society. Then we have Wild at Heart. This film with Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern that he made while he was making his show Twin Peaks. This film, I believe, won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival when it came out. Um, I've always really liked that movie. And then you have Fire Walk with Me, the sequel slash prequel to Twin Peaks. This movie here definitely misunderstood, and if you didn't see the show and you're not on David Lynch's level, you're going to be kind of completely lost while watching this. Um, but I think this movie gets more appreciated over time, especially with the revival of the Return of Twin Peaks. The Return of Twin Peaks felt more like a continuation of this than a continuation of the original two-season series. We have Lost Highway here as well, another great surrealist film. I've talked about this a little bit. I think I talked about a little bit on an unwatched pile because I paired it up with something else. This movie starring Patricia Arquette as well as Bill Pullman. Yeah, there's so much to say about these movies. Don't really have the time to do it now. I just want to more pay tribute to all of his work. Then you have The Straight Story. This is the imprint release of The Straight Story. No pun intended. This is his most straight film. Straight in the sense that it's very straightforward. It's his most direct film. It's such a beautiful, simple film, but I love it for that fact. I love it how there's no frills to it. There's no things in it to create any type of plot line. It's just a very simple, beautiful story. And then we have what I consider his masterwork. I think this movie is one of the greatest films perhaps ever made. Certainly one of the greatest films of the last 30 years, and that is Mulholland Drive. This movie is an enigma wrapped in a mystery, wrapped in an enigma. This movie is everything to me. When I first saw this movie, it opened my mind to endless possibilities of what cinema can be. Cinema to me is endless. It is everything and anything. There's no limits to what it is. And Mulholland Drive captured that for me. And then lastly here is his last feature film that he directed, and that is Inland Empire from 2006. I just saw this recently, I think as of last couple of years, because I watched it, well, when this 4K no, when this Blu-ray came out, this Blu-ray, not a 4K UHD, just a Blu-ray, and that is Inland Empire, one of his last masterworks. And what a magnum opus of a movie. What a magnum opus of a movie. And of course, I did want to, of course, touch on his television work, and I have them here somewhere. Where did I put them? Um, why am I blanking on this now? Ah, here they are. Found them. So I have Twin Peaks. I have Twin Peaks: The Return. So first up here is Twin Peaks: The Entire Mystery. This box set here with Laura Palmer on the front. I won't talk about the mystery behind this show and all this kind of stuff. Was one of the biggest shows when it came out, so I think circa 1990, and its first season was just like must see TV, and then its second season veered off into um, a different land, kind of more David Lynchian type land. Basically, Mark Frost, I think, had taken over the show by that point, because David Lynch was working on Wild at Heart. And I guess it just didn't do as well ratings wise. But this show was kind of like Lost before Lost. If you can imagine a show seeped into mystery and supernatural stuff and surrealism going on. That's how I like to kind of interpret and kind of sell it to people. And masterwork of a show, but ended after 2 seasons, ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, if you will, and then we got a revival back in 2017 with Twin Peaks: The Return. Twin Peaks: The Return is, my goodness, what a show. My goodness, I was hoping beyond hope that we would have gotten even more Twin Peaks when David Lynch was still with us. But ending on the note that this ended on is fascinating to me. There is another set of these that's currently out. It's called Twin Peaks Z to A. There's a big gargantuan box set of that, which I think is now out of print because it was a limited edition. I think it's now out of print, and they're re-releasing it in a more standard packaging. CBS/Paramount is doing that. I think that's coming out in um February. But I don't like that packaging at all. It's that like stacking discs or kind of overlaying of disc and that clear plastic casing that we've seen CBS/Paramount do with a lot of their shows over the years. Think of the complete series set of Star Trek: The Original Series or Star Trek: Next Generation, or even something like the Twilight Zone, the original Twilight Zone series. If you know those packagings, you know what I'm saying. Very cheap plastic, overlapping discs, no frills. It's not great. They are so, but you do get the complete series of Twin Peaks. Plus, I think there are a couple of episodes that they are releasing in UHD, and I believe that set also comes with Fire Walk with Me as well. And you get all the special features, I believe, that were on the individual release or that actually came in these two releases here. Plus, that Z to A set had some extra features that these two I think did not. So that's my biggest regret, is not getting that original Twin Peaks Z through A set, is missing out on those special features. You can still track it down, of course, eBay, places like that, probably for a very hefty penny. So that is everything that I want to say about David Lynch. I didn't want to take too much time because that's yeah, we have some things to talk about here on Chasing Labels, but I had to pay tribute to one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, one of my biggest inspirations in terms of my love of cinema, and movies in general and movie collecting, and just really he was kind of one of those guys who was just everything to me, and damn, I'm gonna miss him so much. So some other news here, at Chasing Labels. I did pick up some things that I want to talk about too. Um, late last year, I took part in the While Supplies Last sale on Kino website. And, their While Supplies Last sale, for those of you who are in the know, it's basically stuff that they are losing the distribution rights to, and stuff that they've got to basically burn the inventory of, and because they're not making anymore, and they want to sell all the stuff they have. So I decided to snag a few things. First up here is Inherit the Wind, which we covered here on Chasing Labels. This came out within the last couple of years, so this was kind of a surprise that it was already going out of print. This is the adaptation of the play Inherit the Wind. This stars Jack Lemmon and George C. Scott, one of George C. Scott's last films ever, I believe. Let me put this back over here. Then we have two box sets here. Well, not box sets, but more like collection. That is the Alice Guy Blanchet Volume 1 and Volume 2. This is Volume 1, the Gaumont Years. And this is an extension of their first Pioneers First Women in Film box set from a few years ago, which featured several films from Alice Guy Blanchet. And I guess this is just more of her work. And she made films in the early part of the 20th century. We're talking like the 19 teens. So silent film era, early history of American cinema. This is Volume 2, the Solax years. So I decided to pick these two up. I've wanted to get these for a while, and the fact that they were going out of print made me want to get them just the more. Next is Burt Lancaster in Valdez is Coming. It's Burt Lancaster in a Western. No brainer for me. No brainer for me. And then we've got Clouseau, the early works. Now, I've been wanting to get this since 2018 when it came out. For those of you who know Henri Georges Clouseau, he directed Diabolique as well as Wages of Fear. Those are probably his two most notable works. But these are his early films that he did in the 1930s when he was in Germany, because he's a German filmmaker. And these are stuff from that era. So it's a 2-disc set. It comes with 7 feature films. Well, one of them is 56 minutes long, and one of them is 15 minutes. So not quite all of them being feature length, but you know what I'm saying. So that is that. Then we've got The Rare Breed, a Western starring Jimmy Stewart and Maureen O'Hara. And I think I have this on DVD, so this is a Blu-ray upgrade for me, directed by Andrew V. McLaglen. And then we've got Easy Living. This is a Mitchell Leisen film starring Carol Lombard and Ray Milland. I believe this is written by Preston Sturges, so that immediately got me interested. So I picked this up to get more. Actually, no, this is not Carol Lombard. This is Jean Arthur. Sorry, Jean Arthur and Ray Milland. I get it confused with the Carol Lombard box set because a lot of the films in that box set are Mitchell Leisen films. So that's that. And then we've got another film here, and this is directed by William Wyler. This is called The Good Fairy. This is also written by Preston Sturges. Another reason why I bought this. Also, this stars Margaret Sullivan. And yeah, I had to pick it up. More William Wyler to add to the collection. More William Wyler to add to the William Wyler section of my collection. So let me put these back because I got one more stack here, and then we'll get into the news. So let me move those there. And then we've got stuff I finally got from the Black Friday sale over at Vinegar Syndrome. So that stuff took a little while. Obviously, it goes by people who are subscribers. They obviously get their orders before everyone else does, and then based off of when you place your order. I'm notorious for taking forever. I wait till the last second, but we've got some releases here. The cinematograph release of Touch, the Paul Schrader film. I really love these cinematograph releases. I love this matte digibook style that they've been doing. Justin La Liberty, this is kind of his line over there at Vinegar Syndrome, and these are fantastic releases. Then I have Singapore Sling. Singapore Sling, what a film. What a film. I've talked about it several times. I talked about it, of course, while when this was announced. I talked about it. I know Steven has also talked about it here. I think he talked about it in the last Unwatched pile. No, he talked about it as one of his favorite releases of 2024 was Singapore Sling. Our recent video of our favorite release of 2024 is available here on the channel, so check that out if you haven't already. You get to hear him talk about Singapore Sling. And then we've got Five Card Stud. Five Card Stud. I think this is a Vinegar Syndrome Labs release. This is a Western starring Robert Mitchum and Dean Martin. I had to pick this up just because of that fact in and of itself. And this is a Henry Hathaway Western as well. And then we've got Dream Life from, I believe this is a Canadian International Pictures release. Yep, this is our buddies over at Canadian International Pictures, because I was showed the other cover here. And I had to get this because not only is it a good film, but I believe it's the first film ever directed by a woman in Canada. I believe that's correct, or maybe Quebec. Sorry, I probably should have. Oh yeah, it says the first feature film directed by a woman in Quebec. It's Mireille Dansereau. So we've got a couple more here. Southern Comfort, their VSU release of Southern Comfort. This is a film by who directed this? Mine's completely blanking on me. Walter Hill, and as in the usual fashion, it's got the magnetic clasp opening plus a ribbon here that pulls out all of the insides. For those of you listening at home, you can't see it, but for those of you who have VSU releases, you understand how nice the packaging is. And it's really Vinegar Syndrome's most deluxe release is their VSU. So I don't have all of them. I'm missing a couple of them. I'm missing Sidekicks. I'm missing also Showgirls. And I'm probably missing another one as well. So I'm not quite caught up to date with all of those. But another cinematograph release is Going South. Going South. This is the film directed and starring Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson only directed 3 films in his career. He directed Drive, he said, Going South, and The Two Jakes. I have Drive, he said, and I have Going South. I need to get a copy of The Two Jakes just to complete the Jack Nicholson directorial filmography, if you will. They're not all great films. The Two Jakes is notoriously not known for being too great. Going South, I think, is good. It's at least good. Mary Steenburgen is in this film as well. This is another nice release. It has that matte digibook style, which I really, really like. But yeah, so I'm getting many of these cinematograph releases, not all of them so far. I'm missing, like I said, a couple myself. But we do have some comments here. Let's see. Corin Humboldt says, sad news, going to see a screening of Blue Velvet on Friday. Nice. I unfortunately have never seen a David Lynch film on the big screen in theatrical form. I've never gotten to see him. I mean, 2006, I was 19. Yeah, I was 19 when Inland Empire came out, and I wasn't into cinema the same way I am now, or I would be a few years later into my adulthood. So I didn't even know about David Lynch in 2006. I was just graduating high school. I was just graduating high school, and I barely knew anything about movies. At that point in my life, I think I was just rewatching Lord of the Rings over and over again, and Star Wars over and over again. That was kind of my life in the movie world at that time. But I've never seen it. But that must be amazing on the big screen, and I'm pretty sure they're going to have screenings for David Lynch's work, hopefully forever, in my opinion. We have another comment here. From Mike, who says, "I still need 5 card stud." Yeah, I think I waited until it was on sale, and then I grabbed it. I liked the movie a lot too. I think I talked about it here on Chasing Labels when it was announced. But yeah, I really like it. Robert Mitchum as a preacher again. Of course, if you know, he was a preacher in Night of the Hunter, famously so. But he's not quite that character in that. Corinne Humboldt, you were right. It is Quebec. It was Quebec. Which was very interesting. That's kind of the reason why I got it as well. Let's see. Mike also says, I got that one too. Going through all of Hill's work. There's been a big push for putting Walter Hill's work on Blu-ray over the last several years, at least since we've started here on Chasing Labels back in 2021. Um, we had the Walter Hill box set that came out from Imprint, and we've had a bunch of other Walter Hill stuff being put out randomly here and there. I think The Driver got a 4K release in that Imprint set as well as in the UK. We've got one of the 90s films, the Walter Hill films uh, with Bruce Willis, that was kind of a remake of Yojimbo. I can't remember the title of it. I know that that finally got a Blu-ray release. And yeah, I think I can picture the cover of the Blu-ray, but I can't picture the movie's name. Let's see. Mike also says, I love the VSUs. I don't need them all. That is also the thing as well. The movie Sidekicks to me is not very good. Hence why I haven't bought that yet. And it's the one I kind of needed in the next, going in order. So I've kind of waited to see if that's ever going to drop tremendously in price. That's what I'm waiting for. Um, so yeah, I'm one of those people who will wait. I'll keep my eyeballs just on it, just in case it's going out. It's going out of stock or something like that. But I want to make sure to not overspend for certain things. Yeah, Jeff K says I would love to see Eraserhead on the big screen. That would be mind blowing, unbelievably mind blowing. Like I said, a lot of these have gotten 4K releases. I know Mulholland Drive has a 4K release now, so there's a 4K print of it to be put on the big screen. I think Eraserhead. I have to check if Eraserhead. I think Eraserhead is coming. Eraserhead is coming. There was a rumor this week that Eraserhead is coming. Blue Velvet has a 4K release already. Lost Highway has a 4K release already. So these can be put on the big screen and look probably stunning. Absolutely stunning. Yeah, let's see. Oh, thank you, Jeff. Jeff says Last Man Standing. That's the Bruce Willis film that I was talking about, the Walter Hill film. That's a remake of Yojimbo. But yeah, that is everything I think we'll go over in terms of stuff I've gotten recently. Of course, paying tribute to the late, great David Lynch. And now I've got to find a place to put these things where they're not going to topple over. So yeah, we'll leave all those there. And let's get into the news and the boutique label world. Now that we're already a half an hour into this, I said I wasn't going to go for a long time, but I guess I lied. So let's see. I'm just checking my notes. Actually, there's some news I wanted to get into, and then this news will segue um, into what I wanted to talk about. So, Shout Factory has acquired the Golden Princess Library. So, what this means, we need to break it down to everybody. This is gigantic news. So, these are basically cult Hong Kong action films from the 80s. Think of Hard Boiled, think of The Killer, think of A Better Tomorrow. Basically, like John Woo's work before he came to the US. And plus a bunch of other movies. I think it's like 156 movie library. We've got movies like Ringo Lam, City on Fire, Prison on Fire, Aces Go Places, Peking Opera Blues, Chinese Ghost Story Trilogy. We got Pieces Hotel. We have Johnny Toe's The Big Heat. Now You See It, Now You Don't. But this is gigantic news. They acquired worldwide distribution rights. So hopefully within the next year, perhaps this year, I have no idea, we'll start seeing some of these get Blu-rays, get 4K releases. I don't know what the plan is over at Shout, but that is gigantic news. For years and years and years now, there's been a call for a re-release of, in my opinion, John Woo's The Killer and Hard Boiled. I think Hard Boiled is one of the greatest action movies ever made. So I'm thrilled that this is finally happening. And yeah, I can't wait to see what this brings us. I know for years it's been so hard to get the rights to these Hong Kong films, and finally it's happened. So for years, the only thing that's really been available to us is there's been Dragon Dynasty Blu-rays of Hard Boiled and The Killer, but they notoriously don't look very good. And they're not great releases in general. They've been around since 2010, so we're going on 15 years now. So these movies needed some type of re-releases. So hopefully this gives us that. And the reason why I mention that is because we do have some Scream/Shout Factory announcements. These are their March announcements. So coming in March, we've got several movies here. We've got Night of the Creeps is getting a collector's 4K edition. Bring It On, a 25th anniversary edition. It's been 25 years since that movie came out. My goodness. I saw that movie in the theater back in 2000. I was 13 years old. And that's the movie, that's the cheerleading movie starring Kirsten Dunst, Gabrielle Union, Eliza Dushku. Um, what an interesting movie. That movie spawned like several straight to video sequels, but the original is obviously the best. Now we've also gotten Forbidden World Collector's Editions getting a 4K release. Ghost Cat Anzu, which I believe is part of their G Kids, their G Kids releases. And then we've got another Shaw Brothers Classics box set. For those of you keeping track at home, this is volume 6 of just Shaw Brothers Classics. And I think they've had 2 like Shaw Brothers adjacent box sets as well. So we're talking like 8 Shaw Brothers centric box sets, if I'm keeping track. Plus you've got 2 Golden Harvest box sets already from them. That's what, 10 box sets of, this Chinese martial arts films from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even into the 90s, into the early 90s. Damn, that's a lot. That's a lot. Because each of these box sets has at least 11 films. This one here has 11 films. I'll go into all the 11 films that's in here. I just want to go down the rest of this list. But I think the last one here is the movie Tommy is getting a 50th anniversary 4K release. This is the Ken Russell film. The Ken Russell psychedelic rock opera starring The Who, Roger Daltrey, plus a bunch of other contemporary artists of the time perform in the film. It's a rock opera based off of their album Tommy from the late 1960s. This movie's an acid trip of a movie. It's just one long music video after music video after music video of so many people. Like Eric Clapton's in the movie, Tina Turner, Elton John sings Pinball Wizard. What a wild acid trip of a movie. But it's getting a 4K release. So for those of you who are fans of that movie, it's getting a 4K release. But the Shaw Brothers Classic set like I said, has 11 films in it. And the 11 films are Swordsman 3, The 12 Gold Medallions, The Black Enforcer, Duel for Gold, Fingers of Doom, Nacha and the Seven Devils, Shadow Girl, Swordsman at Large, The Black Tavern, The Young Avenger, Crazy Nuts of Kung Fu. And these films all range from 1970 to 1972, I believe. 1974, sorry. So another 11 film box set. Unfortunately, I did not get the chance to watch all of them. As you can imagine, watching 11 Shaw Brothers films would have been a tough task, at least in a row. Plus all the other stuff I've got to watch here for Chasing Labels. But yeah, another 11 film box set of Shaw Brothers Classics films. So that's a lot. Other movies of note here from this list that I've gotten to see. Night of the Creeps, I watched for the first time, directed by Fred Decker. The movie stars Tom Atkins, who of course was in The Fog. He was in Creepshow. He was in Halloween 3, I believe. And this movie it's a cult classic. It takes place in it starts in the 50s and then goes into modern times, being 1986, and it's a movie that it's tough to explain. Not really. There are these alien parasites that come down and infect people and turn them into zombies. That's the movie. And then they also spread, because once you become a zombie, you also start spreading other parasites around. So the zombiness spreads around and what that and all that kind of stuff. Really fun 1980s cult classic horror zombie alien sci-fi movie called Night of the Creeps. I'm pretty sure many of you know it. I'm so late to the party on it, so it was new to me, but a heck of a lot of fun. Tom Atkins is actually really great in the movie. Um, Dick Miller makes an appearance in the film as well. It was nice to see Dick Miller. He's notorious for just showing up in one scene in a movie and then moving on. Um, so I also saw what else did I see here? Let me check my letterbox here for a second because I can't remember all the things I watched. But let me see. Nope, I checked the wrong thing on my letterbox. Let's see, scrolling down to I did see this. The Forbidden World, or just Forbidden World. For some reason, I drew a complete blank on it. So, Forbidden World, in the distant future, a Federation marshal arrives at a research lab on a remote planet where a genetic experiment has gotten loose and begins feeding on the dwindling scientific group. If that sounds familiar to you, it's very similar to the plot of Alien, because it's pretty much a super, super low budget 1980s, like Roger Corman produced uh film that's a ripoff of Alien. That's exactly what it is. Um, it's fine. It's you can probably watch it now on um like I think the Roku channel has it, Crackle has it, Plex has it. Something you wouldn't mind watching with some ads placed in commercial breaks. It's not a great movie. It's fun for exactly what it is. It's exactly what you expect it to be. So that's Forbidden Planet. I think or Forbidden World. Sorry, not Forbidden Planet. Um, and then, like I said, I talked about Tommy. I didn't get to see the Ghost Cat Anzu. I wanted to. That's a newer film, so it was really tough to find, and it's not really streaming anywhere. So yeah. So I think that's it for Shout Factory slash Scream Factory. Let's move on. Those were their March releases of Night of the Creeps, Bring It On, Forbidden World, Ghost Cat Anzu, and then the Shaw Brothers Classics box set number 6, volume 6. So let's move along from there. We check my notes. Let's move over to our friends over at Radiance. Why not? So Radiance had uh one, two, three, four releases plus a fifth one from Raro Video or Raro Video. So they had a Tale of Sorrow and Sadness, Va Savoir, Girl with a Suitcase, River of Grass, and Rulers of the City is their Raro Video release. I watched all of the Radiance ones because I'm not really collecting Raro Video releases or Raro Video releases, but A Tale of Sorrow and Sadness is first up on the docket, and these are their April releases. Yes, these are their April releases. So they're already in April. They're way ahead of the game. We're all stuck in January freezing. I don't know about anybody else. I live in the Northeast and it is currently like 16 degrees here. It's going to go down to single digits tonight. And I know people also freezing over in the Midwest. It's a very cold January already. Um, so I'm just cold all the time here. So, but I can't even think of April and think of May. Those are warmer weather on the horizon. So, let me read this here for A Tale of Sorrow and Sadness. Let's see. Oh yeah, the editor of a sports magazine grooms fashion model Reiko to become a pro golfer while retaining exclusive rights to her likeness. Reiko's popularity soars after she wins her first tournament and she becomes a media sensation. But when she and her manager cause a hit and run accident, the victim begins to blackmail Reiko, intruding further and further into her personal life. This was Seijun Suzuki's comeback film after being blacklisted by the film industry for 10 years. Though adapted from a popular manga, the bold visuals and absurdist plot twists are vintage Suzuki. Yeah, this is a Seijun Suzuki film from 1977. For those of you who have been collecting Seijun Suzuki films or know of Seijun Suzuki's work, there were three box sets of Seijun Suzuki's work put out by Arrow over the last many years. There's a volume 1 and volume 2 of Seijun Suzuki's work, two of which are my biggest regrets ever in my collecting life of not buying when they came out, because they are out of print. They've been out of print for years, and they are rather expensive to track down to buy. There's also a third box set called the Taiyosho trilogy, um, and that I think is you can still find that. I don't think that's tough to find. But so 3 box sets plus we have Tokyo Drifter and Branded to Kill, 2 films that are put out by Criterion. Those are obviously always able to find those. But this movie here is rather interesting because it's a play on, like, not only like me like it's not only touching on like the media's grasp onto a rising popular star, but also kind of has that little bit of a twist in it where you now have got somebody who's trying to take down that star, if you will. And it also kind of talks about like obsessive fandomness and all kinds of stuff going on in this movie. It's tough to explain without you actually watching the movie. Um, and so I would definitely recommend checking this movie out if you haven't already. If you're a fan of Seijun Suzuki's work, I think you owe it to yourself to check this out. But yeah, this is coming out, like I said, in March. No, in April 28th, I believe this is coming out. That's what we've got here for special features. Let's see. Audio commentary by critic and author Sam Deegan. That's cool. New interview with editor Kunihiko Uke. And that's it. Those are the only special features on here. Okay. The movie I think speaks for itself, so I wouldn't be too upset. Next is a movie called Va Savoir. Va Savoir is a film by Jacques Rivette. I'm pretty sure many of you know who Jacques Rivette is. Um, if you know anything about uh, the French New Wave, Jacques Rivette is a figure in the French New Wave. He's amongst all those contemporaries of that time: Godard, um, Agnes Varda, Claude Chabrol, um, so many others. Let me see. So Va Savoir, where is it? I'm trying to look up for it on my yeah, yeah. So Va Savoir also translate into Who Knows. So if you see the English translation of Who Knows, that's Va Savoir. So after finding love and success in Italy, French actress Camille returns to Paris, the city she fled 3 years ago. She secretly dreads confronting her ex-boyfriend Pierre. Her new lover Hugo also has a secret as he's meeting with the intriguing Dominique while on his quest for an unpublished manuscript. So what you have here is a movie about 3 couples whose lives intersect with one another. That's kind of the way I viewed it, and it's very interesting. Let me read what it says here. So, returning home with her traveling theater troupe, actress Camille finds the affections of her director lover Hugo, having waned after he takes an interest in Dominique, a vivacious student helping him search for an infamous missing play. In a bid to make him jealous, Camille reunites with her former lover Pierre, and now happily married to Sonia, and a farce-like series of love triangles ensue. Yeah, so it's like these people all have this intermingling relationship, intertwined with one another. Very good screenplay. A long film. This film runs. Oh, gee, let me look over here. This movie runs for 154 minutes, so it's a 2.5 hour, you know, drama romance of these intersecting lives. And to be able to sustain a film and sustain our attention span as viewers for that long, you have to be quite a skilled filmmaker to do so. And Jacques Rivette is a very good filmmaker. Jacques Rivette did films like, let's see, yeah, this is his directorial. Celine and Julie Go Boating, La Belle Nocios. He did a film called, what's his most? So Gang of Four, I've talked about. That's a film he did in 1989. Paris Belongs to Us. That's the one that's put out by Criterion. that is his film. La Marfo is another film of his. Is that Lumiere and Company? La Pointe du Nord. I think that's another Criterion. I don't know. I probably should check up on that, but I'm just riffing here. So that's Jacques Rivette, but Va Savoir is a good film if you have the patience for a French drama, if you will. Let's see. So we got 4K restorations of Va Savoir, the 154-minute theatrical cut, and Va Savoir, the 223-minute director's original cut. Holy heck. So I only saw the 154-minute theatrical cut. 223 minutes must be fascinating. That is a monstrously long amount of time in for a movie. Um, I'm intrigued by that. I want to buy this release just for that reason alone. You've got a select scene commentary by screenwriters Pascal Bonitzer and Christine Laurent. Original interview with director Jacques Rivette from 2001. Archival interview with star Jean Balabar. Interview with critic Jonathan Romney. And then that's it for this release. But my goodness, you got two cuts of the movie, two long cuts of the movie, mind you. Very cool. So let's see. Girl with a Suitcase. Let's see. Let me check to see if. Yep, everything's still good here. So Ada, who is Claudia Cardinal, who was in Once Upon a Time in the West, The Day of the Owl, has fallen for a rich playboy and arrives at his door to find it firmly shut and herself ignored. His younger, more sensitive brother, Lorenzo, helps her and finds himself quickly besotted. That's a fancy word. Basically, I think he's smitten with her. That would be more accurate. Or more well known of a term. Cardinal gives one of her most tender and vulnerable performances in Girl with a Suitcase, an unsentimental coming of age story that deals as much with adolescence as class. A vital director of Italy's post-war cinema, Valia Zerlini's small but remarkable body of work deserves to be discussed among the greats. I would say this is a very good film. I've seen it, and if you like coming of age stories, this will be right up your alley. This will be right up your alley. It is a very genuine, tender, sensitive coming of age story. It's an interesting film, also commenting on the way in which men treat women, specifically poorly, because this woman, Claudia Cardinal's character, is just constantly tossed aside by men in this film because she's trying to find kind of love in all the wrong places, as the saying goes. And it's really unfortunate that that's also a very contemporary thing. People trying to find love in all the wrong places and coming up empty and having to deal with the consequences of that. Um, you know, love is a very interesting thing and that we all kind of have to go through in our lives. Um, so that is the movie Girl with the Suitcase. Let's see what we got here for special features. So there's an interview with assistant director Pierre Shiva Zappa from 2006, interview with screenwriter Pierre Di Bernardi from 2006, interview with film critic Bruno Torri on Zerlini's career, visual essay about the film by Kat Ellinger, our friend Kat Ellinger, who has been here on Chasing Labels not once but twice. One of the best. One of the best. Anytime Kat Ellinger does something for a film or does something for a release, it's worth watching. It's worth getting. It's kind of a stamp of approval, if you will. If it's got a Kat Ellinger stamp of approval, it's worth checking out. So that is Girl with the Suitcase, and this is coming out in April, like I said, April 28th as well. So next we have River of Grass, and this is the film by Kelly Reichardt. I saw this movie years ago, so I'm not as familiar with it as I am with the others that I just saw recently. So in a rundown small town between Miami and the Everglades, Cozy, a dissatisfied housewife, longs for an adventure. One night at a nearby bar, she meets Leray, an equally disaffecting handyman who's never left home. As sparks fly between them, a gun accidentally goes off. Thinking they have committed murder, the pair decide to flee. But their naive natures and limited bank balances mean they don't get very far. Cleverly playing on procedural drama tropes, Kelly Reichardt's remarkably assured debut feature showcases her keen eye for observing the unsaid in this story about the stories we tell ourselves to escape the banality of life. or of everyday life. Excuse me. Let's see. So River of Grass, I think had an oscilloscope release because there's a 2K restoration by Oscilloscope Laboratories. And let's see. We also have audio commentary by Kelly Reichardt and Larry Fessenden. No, audio interview with writer and curator So Mayer from 2024. Larry Fessenden, Invisible Man, Renaissance Man, Monstrous Midwife, a visual essay by critic Anton Battelle on the career of actor and producer Larry Fessenden, including his work with Reichard and other independent filmmakers, and there's drive-by outtakes, and then restoration featurette as well. And that is it. Like I said, I haven't seen this movie in, oh goodness, probably many years. And but it's a first film by Kelly Reichardt, so it's something I'm definitely interested in. I just need more of Kelly Reichardt's work. Let me see if let me pull up Kelly Reichardt's filmography, and yeah, Kelly Reichardt did First Cow. She did Showing Up. She did the movie Certain Woman, which I believe it has a Criterion release. Wendy and Lucy, a incredibly sad film, which I actually now own on DVD. That movie reminds me of Umberto D, the Vittorio De Sica film, which is one of the saddest films I've ever seen. So Wendy and Lucy starring Michelle Williams. She also did Meek's Cutoff, which also has an oscilloscope release as well. I've been wanting to get Meek's Cutoff for years. That pseudo western. She also did Old Joy, which has a Criterion release. That movie Night Moves. I actually have that movie Night Moves in my collection. I bought it randomly, like as a blind buy, probably back in 2014, not knowing who Kelly Reichardt was at the time, and just buying it just for the sake of buying it. And I have it in my collection. I have it in my collection ever since. And then she did, of course, River of Grass. But yeah, I've got to get more of her work because I've always been like I said, I'm obviously a big fan because I've seen so many of her films. Yeah, so that is it for the proper Radiance films, limited editions. Those are all coming out in April. The Raro video release, which is called Rulers of the City. I just want to go through it real quick because it stars Jack Palance. It's got a dope cover too. So Tony, a debt collector for a small-time Roman boss, dreams of making it big. He meets Rick and decides to back him up in order to screw over an American gangster called Scarface Manzari, who is Jack Palance. I like how they credit Jack Palance here as being in Batman, which he is. Technically, he is in Tim Burton's Batman, but he, of course, was in so many other films that's not Batman. But Scarface and Manzari, Jack Palance, who monopolizes all the crime in the city, but Rick is driven by revenge on Manzari because he had treacherously killed his father after a robbery years earlier. An Italian crime classic from Fernando Di Leo. Rulers of the City features his trademark violence and action with a strain of dark humor, producing one of the filmmaker's most enjoyable slices of Eurocrime. I like that subgenre there, Eurocrime. Newly restored in 4K, it is presented on Blu-ray in the UK for the first time. 2020 4K restoration. Violent City, an archival featurette. That's a special feature here. A new interview with Eurocrime authority Mike Malloy on the childhood revenge theme, and Polizia Tesci, which I think is like, police crime films in the Italian cinema in the 70s. Reversible sleeve featuring artwork based on the original posters, and that is it. That's really cool because I only have like one Fernando Di Leo release. Let me see if I have it down here. Got it right here. I always keep it around just to show off in these moments. I talk about a random buy find release from years ago. This is a raro release of Fernando Di Leo's Shoot First, Die Later. I only bought this because the cover of this is wild to me. I found this randomly used at a store I used to go to called Movie Stop. And they would just have a hidden gem after hidden gem. And I would spend hours and hours there on my Friday and Saturday nights by myself, just combing through their Blu-rays and DVDs, and I found this one time, and this cover just grabbed me. It's called Shoot First, Die Later, and Fernando De Leo. That's what I got here. That's the only Fernando De Leo release I have. Let's see. Corin Humboldt says, I'm going to grab the Rivette for sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's Jacques Rivette. You can't go wrong with certain names. Like I'm a sucker for certain names. Um, Especially, certain names of people whose work, are well regarded. I mean, am I a sucker and a sap for that? Yes. It reminds me that I still need to get the second Claude Chabrol box set from Arrow. There is an Arrow there or was an Arrow sale going on over at Barnes and Noble, 50% off. I don't know if it's still going on. I have to go over there and check. I'll probably check after the recording tonight, just so that I don't want to miss out on anything. But I pretty much picked over what my store had the last time they had a 50% off sale of Arrow stuff. Uh, so I don't think my in store there's much there, but I'll check online because that reminds me of like I said, Claude Chabrol and things like that. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. I keep wanting to call you Humboldt Horror Honey, but that's not your name. But Corin Humboldt. Um, I don't think I have any Jacques Rivette in my collection, actually. I don't have Paris Belongs to Us, even though I've almost bought it several times in the past. But yet again, we are done with Radiance. So that is everything from Radiance coming out in April. Once again, sometime soon, they will, of course, have their next crop of, the next announcements are February 6th. If you go to their website, radiancefilms.co.uk, it says right up top, next announcements, February 6th, and those will be their May releases. So that was A Tale of Sorrow and Sadness, Savoir, A Girl with a Suitcase, River of Grass, and Rulers of the City is a Raro release, a Fernando De Leo film. So let's move on now from Radiance. Let's see, where shall we go to now? Do we want to dive into Kino? Let me see if I can bring up Kino. Yes, let's dive into Kino, shall we? It's a bit of a plunge. They've got so much stuff, and it varies. It varies everywhere. But first up here is a 1998 film called Half Chance, or Half a Chance, starring Jean-Paul Belmondo, Alain Delon, and who's the last? Vanessa Paradis. And this is a fascinating movie. I actually just watched this yesterday. Half a Chance. This is it's getting a Blu-ray release. It's new 2K it looks as 2K restoration, new audio commentary by film historians Howard S. Berger, Steve Mitchell, and Nathaniel Thompson. The movie is, like I said, starring Jean-Paul Belmondo and Alain Delon. That already should pique your interest. So this movie starts off as this young woman portrayed by Vanessa Paradis. She gets out of prison. She is a car thief, and she's doing a stint in prison because she stole cars and stuff. So she gets out of prison, and apparently recently her mother passed away. Perhaps while she was in prison, I wasn't quite clear on that, but she passed away, and then she left her a cassette audio message that said, 20 years ago when I met two men, and two of these men could be your father. Either one of them could be your father, and it happens to be Jean-Paul Belmondo and Alain Delon. These two kind of wealthy, extravagant men. And she decides to track them down and tell them, "Hey, you knew my mother. I was born whatever, and you could be my father, or you could be my father." And meanwhile, there's a side plot going on where I think the police are tracking these Russian mobsters who are doing stuff, and they're trying to they're doing an investigation into the Russian mob and whatnot, and and certain dealings that they're doing. I think it's arms dealing or whatever. But what ends up happening is one night she ends up stealing a car that happens to belong to the Russian mob. So they go after her, and it's up to her potential fathers to help help rescue her, help keep her safe. They start going after them, and they get caught up in this big Russian mafia war thing going on. And the movie turns into a full out action film with Jean Paul Belmondo and Alain Delon, like shooting Russian mobsters and explosions and helicopters and car chases. It goes way out of left field. And I'm watching it, I'm like, this is wild and crazy. And but I'm digging it. But yeah, that's the movie. That's the movie. I don't think I can explain it any better than that. It's what a wild, wild concept of a movie. Yeah. So if you're fans of Jean-Paul Belmondo and Alain Delon and you want to see them be kind of like Liam Neeson-esque badasses, because they're of older age, watch this movie. It's called Half a Chance. It is currently streaming on Canopy. I don't know how long that's going to be for. When it comes to the streaming world now, things change week to week, month to month. So you don't know where anything is at any given point. You got to keep track of these things. But yeah, that's Half a Chance. Um, what an interesting movie. Let's see. Moving on from there, we have another Alain Delon film called The Black Tulip. Now, if you ever want to see Alain Delon be a French Zorro, I've got the movie for you. It's called The Black Tulip. This is getting a Blu-ray release coming out March 18th. Half a Chance is also March 18th. It's got a 4K restoration, new audio commentary by film critic and author Simon Abrams. And that is it. So, international idol Alain Delon, who's been in many movies. You probably know who he is. Leaps into action in this colorful swashbuckling adventure from the pen of Alexandre Dumas. Alexandre Dumas, who wrote The Count of Monte Cristo, The Three Musketeers. He is Black Tulip, France's most daring masked avenger, one part Zorro and one part Robin Hood. In 1789, on the eve of the French Revolution, you've got Alain Delon as this Robin Hood Zorro character who attacks the rich and steals from them, seemingly out of maybe a sense of rebelliousness or a sense of honor and duty. But they're trying to catch him. The people involved want to catch this guy because he's annoying the heck out of them. So they decide to they're gonna mark him. So the next time he tries to he robs us, we're gonna cut him in the face so that he can be recognized if he shows himself, not as the Black Tulip in public. So, but what Alain Delon does, or what the Black Tulip character does, is apparently he has a twin brother who he's going to bring in to do his public appearances for him, and yeah, that kind of convenient. Um. So yeah. So they decide, but the thing is that his twin brother is kind of the opposite him in every way, in terms of the way he carries himself in public and the way he treats people, the way he acts around other people. So it's a bit of a learning curve for his twin brother, who's also, I think, portrayed by Alain Delon, and they yeah. So and then his twin brother ends up falling in love with some woman and whatnot. It's a whole big thing. Either way, you get the gist of this movie. Um, it's it's Zorro meets Robin Hood with a little twist of like the Prince and the Pauper situation, where you're switching identities here, and whatnot. So that's what you get. It's not a bad movie. It's a fun movie if you love seeing Alain Delon being absurdly handsome for, how long is this movie? 113 minutes. And if you're a fan of him, check it out. Just check it out. Next we have a movie called Ho, with an exclamation point. So I guess it's like screaming, like I was gonna say like Thundercats. Guess it's like screaming like Thundercats. This is a movie from 1968 starring Jean-Paul Belmondo. It's got a 4K restoration. It's got a new audio commentary by film historians Howard S. Berger, Steve Mitchell, and Nathaniel Thompson. This movie is interesting. So, like I said, starring Jean-Paul Belmondo, he stars as Francois Holland, also known as Ho. a race car driver who leaves the world of auto racing behind for a life of crime. His skills make him the perfect getaway driver for a gang of bank robbers. When the leader of the gang is killed, Ho muscles in and tries to take over. Of course, that doesn't go according to plan, igniting his transformation from small time thug to notorious criminal in the style of Arsene Lupin and Al Capone, based on a novel by Jose Giovanni. This elegant, thrilling gem of European neo noir was directed by Robert Enrico. So this synopsis is not quite makes it more extravagant than it actually is. Um, so he does try to, you know, move up in the gangster world, um, to to a certain extent. I don't want to say more else than that, but yeah, it's like I said, if you're a fan of Jean-Paul Belmondo, check this out. If you're a fan of kind of, French Euro neo-noirs from, I want to say like in the late 1960s, yeah, 1968, give it a watch. I liked it. It's a slower film than I thought. There's a lot less gangster things going on, a lot less criminality going on in it, and the movie, it takes some twists and turns, if you will. Um, but I think you'll dig the ending. Like, the ending is really cool. I wish the ending was a lot more of the way the rest of the movie was. Um, but yeah, so that's the movie Ho, starring Jean-Paul Belmondo. Next, we have Diary of a Chambermaid, starring Jean Moreau, directed by Louis Buñuel. So if you're a fan of Louis Buñuel and you've got a Louis Buñuel section in your collection like I do, I think you need Diary of a Chambermaid. 2K restoration by Studio Canal. New audio commentary by film historian Imogen Sarah Smith. Very nice. An Angel in the Marshes featurette in French with English subtitles. Interview with screenwriter Jean-Claude Carrier. Q&A with Jean-Claude Carrier. Wow, there's a lot of Carrier here because the interview is 24 minutes long and the Q&A with Jean-Claude Carrier is 51 minutes long. Wow, that's a long Q&A. But an exquisitely enigmatic Jean Moreau is the chambermaid Celestine, who takes a position with a decadent family on a pre-World War II Normandy estate and finds herself in the middle of a hotbed of hypocrisy and perversion. The old man, let's see, yeah, the old man has a foot fetish. His daughter is a frigid hysteric. Her husband, a dissolute rake. The gamekeeper, a racist and sadist, while the fascist neighbor compulsively throws his garbage on their property. When a child is murdered, Celestine becomes obsessed with discovering and exposing the killer, even though she finds herself attracted to him. Adapted from the Octave Mirbeau novel by cinema's grand surrealist and satirist of the bourgeoisie, Louis Buñuel, who of course did Belle de Jour. Diary of a Chambermaid exerts a hypnotic fascination with the erotic while striking out against human hypocrisy and moral decay. Um, yeah, so this movie, like I said, stars Jean Moreau as she's a woman who is hired to take care of an elderly man in the family who is sick and needs, like, needs care, and he passes away and she's kind of left. What does she do now in terms of employment and whatnot? And but what ends up happening is this young girl ends up getting murdered, and she decides to stick around to find out who did it. She has her suspicions, and she's going to try to expose that person, because of her suspicions. So she needs proof, and she needs, um, a way to capture this person. And of course, things like that are a lot easier said than done. So that is Diary of a Chambermaid. Next, we have The Glass Web, which is a 3D movie from the 50s, from 1953, actually. Let's see. So this is, like I said, a 3D movie from 1953 called The Glass Web. There's a new audio commentary by professor and film scholar Jason A. Ney with 3D experts Mike Baliu and Greg Kintz. Includes the 2D Blu-ray. Uh, includes the 2D Blu-ray, 3D Blu-ray, and anaglyphic red and cyan 3D versions with one pair of anaglyphic 3D glasses. So you get the red and blue 3D glasses. I'm assuming that, cardboard, paper glasses or whatever. You know the ones. So for those of you who don't know, 3D comes and goes in waves throughout cinema history. It was big in the 50s, went away, returned in the 80s, went away, and then came back in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Remember when we were getting 3D TVs in our houses? We were getting 3D Blu-rays at home. We were getting 3D movie re-releases in theaters. New movies were coming out in 3D. Like I said, it comes and goes in waves. Whether it comes back again, I don't really know. I don't think so. I think 4K is kind of replacing that in terms of a new format for people to view at home and for people to view in theaters. So that's what I believe to be the case. But man, I remember 3D when it hit back in the late 2000s, early 2010s. They were re-releasing everything in 3D. They re-released Titanic in 3D, Jurassic Park in 3D. They re-released The Phantom Menace, Star Wars Episode 1 in 3D. Of course, that had to do with the fact that Avatar came out in 3D in 2009, and it was a massive, massive hit at the box office. So that really just kicked the 3D craze into overdrive, especially with the movie theaters. With the movie studios, they started making movies with 3D cameras to put out in 3D. Then there was 3D up conversion versus 3D native, whether a movie was shot in 3D versus not shot in 3D. And then you had the same thing with Blu-rays at home. I had a 3D TV. I had a Panasonic 3D TV. I had 3D Blu-rays. I think I still have a few of them around actually, in my collection. Most definitely. Like I had Hugo in 3D. I think I had Avengers. I had a bunch of 3D movies at home. I had the bigger thick glasses that you had to that were battery powered, because there was two versions of 3D. Now I'm going off on a tangent here. I need someone to stop me. There was passive 3D. Passive 3D were the ones you kind of saw in theaters. That where you got those disposable glasses that they gave you in the theaters. You would recycle them afterwards. That was passive 3D. I think there was progressive 3D. Those were the thicker glasses. I still have them. I should bring them out and show you guys one day. Where they were, battery powered. You had to charge them with like a mini USB cable. And yeah, those were the ones I had. You could get passive 3D at home as well, with the thinner, like more regular glasses. But I had to be fancy and go with the progressive ones, because I wanted a Panasonic plasma TV. That's what I had at the time. Plasma was still at the time one of the best TVs you could get. Now OLED is kind of OLED is kind of what the new plasma is. For those of you keeping up with the tech game, which I do dabble in from time to time. But the glass web, back to the glass web in 3D. Edward G. Robinson, John Forsythe, in this movie here. Film noir legend Edward G. Robinson spins the glass web, the ultimate in shocking 3D suspense. Television writer Don has been having an affair with ice-cold actress Paula while working on the weekly authentic TV show Crime of the Week. When Paula demands a ransom to keep the affair from Don's wife, he agrees. However, as he arrives to deliver the money, he finds Paula dead. Soon, the show's researcher, Henry, Edward G. Robinson, proposes that their next episode should reenact Paula's murder, and that he has incriminating evidence against Don. The twist-filled noir classic was filmed in 3 glorious dimensions by legendary director Jack Arnold, who did Creature from the Black Lagoon and The Incredible Shrinking Man. And yeah, so what we got here is a 3D noir from 1953 starring Edward G. Robinson. Yeah, it's a murder blackmail story, a quintessential film noir plot. So that is The Glass Web, and that is coming out actually March 25th. Next is a movie I wanted to watch, but you can't find this thing anywhere. It is not streaming. It is nowhere to be found. And this is the movie The Countess of Monte Cristo from 1934, starring Fay Wray. I think you could only ever really see this movie at film festivals and special screenings, stuff like that. It says coming soon to Blu-ray from a brand new 2K master. This could mean it's coming this year or next year. We don't really know when it comes to Kino, but we will keep our eyes looked. We'll keep our eyes open, I should say. Directed by Carl Frund, who directed The Mummy and Mad Love. Those two good movies. The Mummy, of course, being the Universal monster film, and then Mad Love, I believe, has a is that the Warner Brothers film starring Peter Lorre? I think that's Mad Love. But I wanted to see this. I wanted to see this movie. I couldn't find it anywhere. Um, yeah, Countess and Monte Cristo. Carl Lemmel presents. Starring Fay Ray and Paul Lucas. I can't wait for this release. To be honest, I'm very excited about it. Next up, also coming soon on Blu-ray from a brand new HD master from a 4K scan of the original camera negative is The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas from 1982, starring Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton, Dom DeLuise, Charles Durning, Jim Neighbors. This movie I actually have already. Let's see, it's down here. Let me see if I can get my copy out without knocking over everything I have around me. Yeah, I have the Umbrella release. This movie's been released by Universal on both DVD and Blu-ray for years. But I just happen to have the box of Burt. I have the box of Burt box set from Umbrella that I got a few years ago, and it's in here. It's in here. So let me get it out of there. So here is it. If you're interested in a musical with Burt Reynolds and, of course, Dolly Parton, I've got the movie for you. Let me just read the back of this. When popular chicken ranch brothel in Texas is targeted by a moralistic TV media crusader, the brothel's buxom Manon, Miss Mona, Dolly Parton, of course, teams up with the local sheriff, Burt Reynolds, to save the cat house from the closure to this song and dance comedy adapted from the smash hit Broadway musical. Yeah, that's Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. And this movie, like I said, has been available on DVD and Blu-ray here for many, many years. It's available in this box of Burt set as well from Umbrella. I love me some Burt Reynolds, and of course Dolly Parton is fantastic as well. So I definitely do recommend this movie if you're a fan of both of them. Yeah, that's the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Let's see. What are we moving on here? Let's see. What else do we have here? I'm just checking up on some comments here. Let's see. Illuminated Pro, welcome back, Illuminated Pro. Good to see you. Thanks for showing up. Ice says, "Hi man, how you doing tonight?" I'm doing okay. Tired as all heck. Like I was saying earlier, January seemingly is a very tiresome month. It's tough to get the engines going in the new year for me personally. You get that that previous year kind of hangover, if you will. And also, living up here in the Northeast, it's very cold and very dark all the time this time of year. Seasonal depression kicks in, everything else kicks in. It was a very harsh end for me for the end of 2024 going into January. It's yeah, this time of year is rough. In general. Let me see. Let me catch up on what was going on here. Let me make sure actually if the stream is okay. Let me go check over on YouTube really, really quick. What's interesting is I try not to have too many tabs open nowadays because that seemingly will overheat my computer and cause things to crash out on me. But you can never win when it comes to technology. As long as the stream doesn't crash, I'm okay. You know what I mean? Because then that creates a whole other host of problems. That creates a whole other host of problems where I gotta start everything back up, and I kind of don't know how to do that. That was the one nice thing about having a co-host. If something goes wrong on your end, they could carry the torch for you. When you're doing it solo, if things go awry, you're kind of stuck. But yeah, but I'm back. Let's see. So what I was saying before, like I said, what do I do? I want to address this. What do you do to get out of a funk? Illuminated Pro asked. For me personally, as someone who's constantly dealing with anxiety, depression, and all of those things all combined into one, it's a never-ending battle. For me, I always turn to cinema. For me, cinema has always been my saving grace, hence why I do the podcast here, hence why I'm constantly watching movies. It's something that, gives me drive, gives me reasons to kind of continue on, if you will. As morbid as that sounds, gives me inspiration to keep going. And I know, everyone is different. How everyone deals with anxiety, depression, being in a funk, being in a rut, being stuck, whatever the case may be, everyone is different and everyone finds solace in different things. Some are positive, some are negative, depending on who you are and your situation. But for me, it's always been cinema. Cinema has always been something I've leaned on heavily. Cinema, I try to stress this to people. For me personally, not to get too deep into it, movies are indeed my life. There's so much part of who I am and who my identity is that I rely on them for a lot of things. I was talking early on about David Lynch and how his passing affected me greatly, because of how personally connected I am to movies and to the people who make movies, to the movie world, to all of this. And being so attached to it personally, a lot of it can affect you. And yeah, life isn't easy, and to get out of a funk is tough, is really tough. But like I said, it's you know you got to turn to the things you love the most, the things that you're passionate about. Jeff also said, watching Ray Harryhausen also always helps me when I'm down. To be honest, the magic of movies and the magic of Ray Harryhausen can help a lot. What is interesting is I had a friend recently who watched The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad for the first time, and he was incredibly um, amazed by how well that film holds up, how well made it is, how well done it is, and just how you know that movie like that over so long could be, you know withstand the test of time essentially. And sometimes you hit on certain magical movie makers whose movies always hit. You know what I mean? I think, I'm looking at the Frank Capra box set right next to me. Frank Capra is another filmmaker who I think movies that he made back in the 30s still hit today. They still have relevance today because there's something magically timeless about them. And that can be, that's what movies can be. Um let's see, this is me after I froze up. Um let's see, movies that uplift me. Oh man. You gotta go. I think you go back to the movies that you love the most, or you go back to movies that you perhaps discovered at a specific time in your life. I guess you could say nostalgic. I think nostalgic is the word for that. Nostalgia, people like to give a negative connotation for nostalgia, which I think doesn't give nostalgia a fair shake. You can turn any positive thing into a negative thing, and turn a negative thing into a positive thing. But nostalgia, for me, it can uplift you. Going back to the things you love the most, and going back to what I love the most, go back to your favorites. Your old reliables. For me, it's Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, came out at a time in my life. Was it 2001, 2002, 2003? I would have been 14, 15, 16. The formative years of my life, if you will. Formative years for many people's lives, the teenage years, if you will. Those movies are both nostalgic for me, they're contemporary for me, they're timeless for me. Going back to them transports me back not only to that time in my life, but it transports me back into a frame of mind of escapism, if you will, a frame of mind of being transported to a different dimension, you know, which I guess is escapism, kind of the same things. Star Wars was that for me, but at an even younger age. Um, Even certain other films, that are my favorites. Um, I'm thinking of Richard Linklater's film Dazed and Confused. I used to revisit a lot. I used to revisit Almost Famous a lot, the Cameron Crowe film. Not really uplifting films, but films that were familiarity, films that were contemplative to me, films that I ruminated and thought about a lot, and films that really, put me in a certain place. Even Richard Linklater's Before trilogy. I used to watch Before Sunrise every year on my birthday, because it's just one of the I think one of the best films I've ever seen. Um, Yeah, a lot of films like that. Also, a lot of TV. I think a lot of people lean on their favorite TV series, which can also be comforting to a lot of people because of the familiarity of it all, the characters. They're like they become like your friends and people you know. I mean, remember, I mean, the opening song of Cheers. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. You want to go to Cheers. You want to go to the bar. You want to go to the place where everybody knows you. It's a comfort place. It's your comfort zone. For me, that's what movies are. I mean, I don't invest all of this time and energy and money and my life donating to movies um, for me not to fully envelop myself within it. Um, yeah, but that's also hard to explain to people too, because to a lot of people, movies are just entertainment. They're just something you go to the movie theaters to watch. You stream on your laptop or you stream on your tablet to pass the time. To me, it is my time. You know what I mean? It is what I do with my time. You know what I mean? Uh, but yeah, it matters to everybody. Oh man, Illuminated Pro. Yeah, I was thinking of Almost Famous. I think about that movie a lot. I think about scenes in that movie a lot. As cliched as it sounds, the part of that movie where they're sitting on the bus singing Elton John, and um, the character leans over and says, "I've got to go home." I'm paraphrasing here. And Kate Hudson's character says, "You are home." Hits so hard. Because there's so much wrapped up um, in that moment. And then, he looks at Patrick Fugit's character, looks at the camera, and just you can see the wheels turning in his head. You know what I mean? This is a home for people. This is a home for these people specifically. These people in this band, the Band-Aids, whatever the case may be. This is their home. What an amazing movie. I wish Cameron Crowe would do more work. He's kind of not doing much these days, but when he was hitting on an interesting level. I think of the movie Say Anything as well a lot when it comes to Cameron Crowe. That's another really, really good movie from him. Um, but yeah, let's see. Um, It's Always Sunny for me. It's on right now. Yeah, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia has been on for so many years. I started collecting It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia on DVD probably back, oh goodness, late 2000s. I haven't watched it in years. They just did a crossover episode with Abbott Elementary, which was a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, those characters on that show, those actors are something else. To sustain that show for that long is kind of miraculous in the modern world of TV. To sustain a TV show for that long is incredible. Especially with the turnover on TV so much, and especially with the amount of TV that there is. Um, Incredible work. Yeah, Jerry Maguire is another good film. Uh, Jerry Maguire is a movie that I have on Blu-ray, and I've been wanting to rebuy several times over. It had a re-release Blu-ray that was remastered. Um, there's that moment of that movie where Tom Cruise is just singing Tom Petty's "Free Fallin'," and he's just belting it out in his car at the top of his lungs. What a what a relatable scene! Probably one of the most relatable scenes Tom Cruise has ever done in a movie. Um, because how many times when you've been driving alone in a car, you just start singing a song at the top of your lungs because you're blaring it on the radio and you're all by yourself. That's a cathartic moment. That is a form of self therapy. Um, Singing to yourself in the shower is a form of self therapy. Um, Very interesting. Um, but yeah, good stuff here. But let me get back to where I was a moment ago. Let's see. We talked about Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Next is going to be another movie similar to what I was just talking about with the Countess of Monte Cristo. Couldn't find this movie to stream anywhere, to stream or to watch wherever. You couldn't find. This is called Hijack Highway, also known as Gas Oil. This is a movie that's getting a 4K restoration. It's got a new commentary by film critic and author Simon Abrams. Um, it's a movie. When did this come out? Disney. Oh, 1955. Runs 93 minutes. Dark Roads, A Stormy Night, and Gene Gabin are the primary ingredients in Hijack Highway, also known as Gas Oil, a French noir gem. Gabin cements his status as one of the pillars of French cinema with a moody and moving performance, and it gives Jeanne Moreau, one of France's greatest actresses, one of her first great roles. After spending the night with his girlfriend Alice, Moreau, trucker Gene Gabin encounters a dead body on the road home. He reports the incident to the police, but they suspect that Gene is responsible for the death. And then there's that nasty gang of crooks who are harassing him. Gene is a victim of circumstance, and forces beyond his control are closing in on him. So this is the wrong man scenario, the classic Hitchcock wrong man scenario, but with Gene Gabin, and it looks like a series of unfortunate events. I remember talking about this movie a while ago because I think they may have announced it, or somebody else is putting it out, or whatever the case may be. And I tried to watch it back then and couldn't find it. And I tried to watch it now and couldn't find it. So this will probably be the only way I can see this movie is on Blu-ray on March 25th when it comes out from Kino. Of course, sometimes that's often the case. So I talked about this last week. Black Sheep, the Chris Farley David Spade film, is getting a 4K UHD release on March 25th, part of whatever Paramount deal Kino has and Kino have. I mentioned it last time. Yeah, Black Sheep is the Black Sheep of the Chris Farley David Spade films. Yeah, whereas Tommy Boy gets all the love and Black Sheep kind of gets remembered, but less so. This is a 4K UHD release, 2-disc edition, 4K UHD, and a Blu-ray. I went over all this last week, so we don't need to talk about that. I also talked recently about The 10th Victim from 1965. This is the film starring Marcello Mastroianni and Ursula Andress, and this is the Elio Petri film. And we actually have details now. This is coming out March 25th as well from a new 2K restoration, or just 2K restoration. It's got a new audio commentary by film historian Steve Mitchell and Troy Haworth. It's got some special feature. It's got a special feature here actually called Elio Petri, subject for further research, featurette by Roberto Lisiurga with Paulo Pegararo Petri, wife of Elio Petri, and author and film historian Kim Newman. That runs 28 minutes long. And that's it. This is the movie where it takes place in like 2079, and there's this event called the Big Hunt. So it is the 21st century, and society's lust for violence is satisfied by the Big Hunt, an international game of legalized murder. Players are selected at random by a computer. It is up to the hunter to get his victim, no matter what, and do him in. The divine Ursula Andress, who was in Dr. No, I think she's the first Bond girl in Dr. No, doing in her last victim with a cleverly concealed pair of pistols at a New York nightclub, and the dashing Marcello Mastroianni doing in his last victim by attaching sticks of dynamite to the spurs of his horse. They've been matched up against each other by the computer. These adversaries are to confront each other in the arena of the Colosseum before the world's television cameras for the kill of the century, but they find that love is the most dangerous game of all. So basically, these two are supposed to kill each other, and they end up falling in love instead, creating a big old complicated mess. You get this little cat and mouse love and romance game between the two. Think of the movie... Oh my goodness. What's the movie with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie? And I'm completely blanking now because my mind is starting to fray. It's the movie where they met. Let's see, you're probably all yelling at me now in the I'm gonna look it up. I'm going to look it up. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Thank you. Thank you, world. Thank you, world, for figuring that out. You have no idea what was running through my head at the time. For some reason, the name Jack and Jill just kept running through my head. And I'm like, it's not Jack and Jill. It's not Jack and Jill. That's the Adam Sandler movie. That's the old nursery rhyme. That's not the movie, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which actually now has a TV series remake, and they're doing a second season. And the way they're structuring it is, I guess, there's going to be a new pairing each season, which is fascinating to me. The first season had Childish Gambino, um, Donald Glover in it. Very good. It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon. Check it out if you haven't already. Um, but yeah, for some reason I was thinking Jack and Jill. I had no idea. So Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of reminds me of that. Or if you saw the movie, The Adjustment Bureau, not the Adjustment Bureau, the Assassination Bureau, that Imprint release, that movie with what's his name and what's her name? That's probably not how you spell it. Oh yeah, I did spell it right. The Basil Dearden film from 1969 that stars Oliver Reed and Diana Rigg, where they have this adversarial relationship, but it ends up turning romantic. Such a trope. Such a trope. But I'm kind of a sucker for that trope. Yes, Adam Schofield, thank you. Ollie Reed. I didn't know we were calling him Ollie Reed. Oliver Reed. For some reason, I've been blanking on Oliver Reed's name lately, and I don't know why. Someone asked me about Gladiator 2 the other day, and so we started talking about the first Gladiator film. So we started talking about Oliver Reed and how he passed away while making it. He passed away doing a drinking competition when he promised Ridley Scott he wouldn't drink during the making of the movie. And I couldn't remember Oliver Reed's name. And I don't know why, because I know Oliver Reed. I've watched so much of his stuff over the last few years because so much of his stuff has been getting released, which is really, really awesome. But I kept blanking on his name recently. I just blanked on it now. I don't know why. He was also in Ken Russell's Tommy, which I talked about earlier, because that's getting a new release. So thank you, Adam. Thank you, Adam, for that. Let's see, where else are we going here? So that was The 10th Victim. Next, we have a movie starring Peter Sellers called The Two-Way Stretch, or just Two-Way Stretch, from 1960. It's got a new audio commentary by author and comedian historians Gemma Ross and Robert Ross, and that's it. This is a comedy caper. It's a comedy caper. So, Peter Sellers is in, of course, people know Peter Sellers from the Pink Panther movies, Dr. Strangelove. He was in Lolita. He was in so many other things. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Adam Schofield says the bar in Morocco where he died is now called the Oliver Reed. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. If I ever go to Morocco, I'm going to go to the Oliver Reed just so I can say I've been there. That's interesting. That's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking of Casablanca right now. I don't know why. I'm just imagining Casablanca, Rick's Cafe American, and I'm thinking of that, but it's called like Oliver Reed's, or the Oliver Reed. Yeah, fascinating. But Two-Way Stretch, like I said, starring Peter Sellers. So Peter Sellers is in prison, and he and his friends they want to bust out. Who doesn't want to bust out of prison? But they want to bust out, commit a robbery, because they hear about they get intel while they're inside about this big payday robbery, if you will, of I think they're these jewels and big payday, and so they want to bust out of this prison, commit the crime, and then go back in, then bust back into the prison so that they can create like a open and shut alibi, like just a closed alibi, like they were here, they couldn't commit this crime, but of course complications ensue. So they have all the plans like laid out, and then the officer that kind of oversees the prison, not the warden, but the main officer who oversees everything, who they're like buddy with. He's like this sweet old guy, and like they're able to get away with all kinds of stuff, like having all kind of contraband in their rooms and whatnot. They're all buddies. They're having a good time, right? Uh, but he's about to retire, and the person who gets brought in is the exact opposite of him. He's this no nonsense, tough as nails guy. Like he's all but also like comedically over the top tough, if you will. Like he's yelling at them for no reason. He having them march for no reason, punishing them for no reason, just a complete opposite guy. So obviously this creates all kinds of problems that they've got to work through. And that's when the comedy ensues. And it's fun. It's a really fun, like I said, comedy caper type of movie starring Peter Sellers. And it's called Two Way Stretch. That's the name of the movie, called Two Way Stretch. Next is a movie called Cry the Beloved Country, which I've talked about already because this got a Studio Canal release maybe last year or 2023. I think 2023 I got a Studio Canal release. Coming March 11th, Cry the Beloved. It's the 2023 HD master by Studio Canal. So there you go. A new audio commentary by Daniel Kramer. Canada Lee, an interview with Mona Z. Smith. And so Cry the Beloved is an extraordinary, moving adaptation of the legendary best-selling novel by Alan Paton. A black minister, Stephen Kumalo, lives a quiet life as a parish priest in the backcountry of South Africa when his son Absalom leaves the small valley where he grew up for the bright lights of the city. He goes missing. After several months of silence, the minister goes in search for him and comes face to face with the squalor and poverty of Johannesburg slums. So what you have here is this journey of discovery, if you will. I wouldn't say self-discovery, but in a way it is, of this father searching for his son. And he's going from, small town to big city. He's going from small world to large world, and it's tough. It's a culture shock. It's a culture shock, and we see that now. Every time you go from a small town to a big city in contemporary times, it's a culture shock. So that makes the film very contemporary. There's this other reverend who is accompanying him and kind of showing him around, or kind of showing him and being his guide, and he's portrayed by Sidney Poitier. In an early performance from Sidney Poitier is a young clergyman who joins him in his search. That's what it says here. And this father's got to discover a lot of hard truths about his son and about the world and about the harshness of reality. His bubble kind of gets burst. It's a really great film. Like, it is a great movie, a really great movie. I can't recommend it enough. Whether you buy the Studio Canal Blu-ray or whether you wait for this Kino release, it's worth a watch. It's called Cry the Beloved Country, produced and directed by Zoltan Korda. Really good film from 1952. Check it out if you can. Next is a movie called College Confidential. I watched this last night, actually, early this morning, to be more accurate. Movie from 1960. It's got new audio commentary by film historians David Delvale, and film historian / archivist Stan Schaefer. This is a 1960 B movie. So already there, set your expectations a little low. I don't think it's a bad movie. The rating on IMDb is below 5, and I don't think it's that bad of a movie. When I think of things below 5, I think of movies that, Mystery Science Theater 3000 would watch and spoof on. Speaking of what you were saying, Illuminated Pro, something that they used to get me out of a funk is watching Mystery Science Theater 3000. I had such a fondness of staying up late in the 90s and watching Mystery Science Theater 3000 with my cousins that it brings me back to that time. That's something that's a bit of a comfort watch to me because it's such fun nonsense for the most part, but brilliant. It's nonsense, but brilliant because you're watching terrible, terrible movies with these, with these two robots and a guy, and they have these fun super low budget skits in between, and yeah, it's such great fun. I know they revived it over the last few years, and I was thrilled beyond thrilled when they revived it. But Mystery Science Theater 3000, they're actually still reviving it now. I think they're still working on some things with it now. That reminds me is that I've got to. That's a collection I've got to complete. I've got so many volumes of that on DVD, and there's still so many volumes more that I've got to complete of that. This is the year People listen to me. If you're listening to me in the future, if you're listening to me now, hold it to me. I've got things I've got to complete in my collection, holes and gaps and things I've started but haven't finished collecting that I need to finish collecting. Things that I've been putting off for years or just been ruminating about for years. I've got to get it done because there's no better time like the present, as the saying goes. But back to College Confidential. So it's like a Kinsey report on the campus when sociology professor Steve McIntyre conducts a survey at Collins College about the mores and lifestyles of the younger generations. Some of the town's citizens are dismayed to learn that it includes questions about, gasp everyone, sex. And when reporter Betty Duquesne receives an anonymous tip in the protest of Steve's corrupt study, and attraction grows between them while Mac ends up facing a lawful fight. So what happens is you've got this college professor who's doing this sociological study survey thing, and one part of this questionnaire or the survey is about people's personal sex lives, general questions. And of course, it's like a small town mindset. It's 1960. Keep that in mind as well. Um, so anything regarding sex in the open world is scandalous. It's beyond reproach. You can't talk about these things out loud, especially with young people. Keep in mind they're young adult aged people. These are college students. these aren't younger people. These are college aged students. And the people in the town are kind of up in arms about it, and they take this guy to task. I mean, over it. And it's one of those types of movies where, like, where the moral of the story is, or where the themes are, we should be having these discussions out in the open. They're going, sex is part of people's lives, whether we want to talk about it or not. You know what I mean? Things like that should be open, and it's healthy, and it's natural to talk about these things, and it's a natural part of life. All of these big themes that we still see being discussed today in movies and TV, books, music, whatever the case may be. I mean, we're more of an open world now than we were in 1960, but in many ways we aren't. And in many ways we are going back to that conservative time, and we are regressing as a society in that way. That's, of course, my personal opinion, but it's interesting how this B movie from 1960 is approaching things that we still see talked about today. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad movie. It's not a great movie. Like I said, it is a B movie in many regards, but I didn't mind it. It's called College Confidential. Mimi Van Doren is in the film. She plays one of the young women in the film that being interviewed and that starts this whole uproar and whatnot. But yeah, called College Confidential. Let's see. Let's see. We have a movie called Godsend, which is Kino Cult number 27. So that Kino Cult line is moving right along. It's got a new audio commentary from Howard S. Berger, Steve Mitchell, and Nathaniel Thompson. Family horror in the vein of The Shining, Burnt Offerings, and The Omen. The Godsend penetrates and exploits the viewer's most primal domestic fears. A young couple shelters a pregnant woman traveling through the English countryside. When morning comes, she leaves behind her newborn child, Bonnie. The Marlowes make room in their family for the foundling, but as time passes, a series of tragedies befalls the other children, and the Marlowes begin to wonder if a monstrous bad seed is taking root in their home. Okay, we've got a bad seed situation going on here. We've got perhaps a little the Omen thing going on here. Seems to be in that vein. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know if it's any good or not. So for those of you who have seen it, let us know here. But moving on from there is Hold That Blonde! Exclamation point, starring Eddie Bracken and Veronica Lake. This movie just says coming soon on Blu-ray, brand new 2K master. Um, I don't know anything about this movie. Let me get the synopsis from Letterboxd. Let me get the. There we are. I watch anything with Veronica Lake, so I want to see this. So, Ogden Spencer Trudeau III is a wealthy kleptomaniac who turned to stealing when he was spurned by a girl. Okay. His psychoanalyst advised him to find another girl for a cure, of course. He fastens his interest upon Sally Martin, who happens to be engaged upon helping some crooks steal a valuable necklace. Complications include two scantily attired individuals, one of them drunk, clinging to the cornice of a skyscraper, and a large band of crooks in quest of precious jewels. Obviously, the Sally Martin character is portrayed by Veronica Lake in an earlier role. This is 1945, has to be one of her earlier roles. Yeah, I'll watch anything with Veronica Lake. I think Eddie Bracken's also fun as well. I'll definitely give this a watch at some point. Um, but moving on from there, let me move. I think quickly, one thing I want to talk about that's actually there's two, but one really quickly. The movie Beethoven is getting a Blu-ray release from a brand new HD master from a 4K scan of the original camera negative. So this movie stars Charles Grodin, Bonnie Hunt, Oliver Platt's in the film. Oh God, Stanley Tucci, David Duchovny, Patricia Heaton. I watched this film repeatedly on VHS. This movie came out in 1992. I would have been 5 years old. This was a VHS staple in my home. I still have the VHS somewhere, probably in a box in a closet. And I watched this movie and I watched Beethoven Second, which was its sequel on VHS over and over and over again. And this was one of the movies that spurned a lifelong love of dogs for me. There was this movie, there was 101 Dalmatians, there was Lady and the Tramp, um, All Dogs Go to Heaven. All these movies I watched at a very young age that spurned a lifelong, forever love of dogs for me. Um, yeah, so Beethoven, the fact that it's getting a another Blu-ray release, because I think it already had a Blu-ray release, the fact that it's getting a remastered Blu-ray release of anything is fascinating to me. Um, damn, I'm happy. I'm happy. I don't know if any of its sequels are going to get such the treatment. Although Beethoven Second, I love a lot. The plot of Beethoven Second, I love so much because Beethoven had puppies, so there are all these little cute puppy Saint Bernards at the beginning of the movie. Um, oh, I love that. I love those two movies so much. So this is talk about nostalgia. That's hit me right in the nostalgia, right in the nostalgia for me. Beethoven. Um, yeah, that was my first movie I ever saw Charles Grodin in. Bonnie Hunt, probably the first movie I ever saw Bonnie Hunt in. Um, yeah, it's written by John Hughes. Let's see, who was it directed by? Does it say? Produced by Ivan Reitman as well, directed by Brian Levant, he directed the Flintstones and Jingle All the Way, and Are We There Yet? So the Flintstones and Jingle All the Way, definitely two films from my childhood as well. That's interesting because I think the Beethoven may have been a universal release. I don't know. I have to look. But last and certainly not least is Kino Cult number 28, and that's Bobbie Jo and the Outlaw. Bobbie Jo and the Outlaw. This is getting a new audio commentary by John Harrison, author of Wildcat, the films of Marjoe Gortner. You got a commentary by director Mark L. Lester. You have an interview with the director Mark L. Lester, interview with actress Marilyn Ross, an interview with actress Belinda Balaski, and that's it. So Linda Carter. This is Linda Carter's uh, first feature film that she was ever in. Before this, she had done TV movies, and I think she had done a little bit of she had done some TV show work, but she did this movie, and of course, she would go on to be TV's Wonder Woman a few years after this movie came out. So this movie came out early 1970s. This movie, let me go check when this movie actually came out. Let's see. Bobbie Jo and the Outlaw came out in 1976. Yeah, and I think very soon after this, a couple of years after this, would be the Wonder Woman TV series. And a young country star wannabe takes off from her car hop career to join with a young modern Billy the Kid wannabe for an adventure in theft, murder, and mayhem. So you get a Natural Born Killers vibe. You get Bonnie and Clyde vibe. Gun Crazy is another film that is similar to this. The remake of Breathless is similar to has a similar premise to this. So you get these two people who meet each other, have a whirlwind romance, and then go on the road and start committing robberies, if you will, because they need money to survive. The road's not cheap. You got to buy food. You got to stay in places. You need money for all those things. You need money for gas. I know back then gas didn't cost as much as it does now, but you need money for gas. So you get this kind of road trip, and it's with Linda Carter, and yeah, it's fun. You can probably stream this right now. It's streaming on Amazon Prime. It's streaming on MGM Plus. It's streaming on Pluto TV with ads, so you can watch it right now if you want to. And it's not a bad film. It's movie's also like 89 minutes long, so it's not exactly a long film as well, but you kind of understand the type of film this is if you've seen those other films. It's called Bobbie Jo and the Outlaw. I'm not sure why it's a Kino cult release, because I'm looking at all the other Kino cult films and most of them aren't similar to this. I'm also thinking of The Honeymoon Killers, that movie that's on Criterion. I'm thinking of that. That's another movie similar to this. Yeah. So that is Bonnie. I almost said Bonnie Jo. What's in it? What is this movie called? Bobbie Jo and the Outlaw. I'm thinking of Bonnie Hunt. Thinking of Bonnie Hunt, as one does. So let me go back to my notes. We got a little hung up there on Kino. Let's see what we're doing for time. All right, we're at the 2-hour mark. Let's move right along here. So we've done Radiance, we've done Shout, we've done Kino. Let's move over quickly to Imprint, because Imprint only has 3 releases. Because this is their Imprint Asia line. So the Imprint Asia line is they're adding 3 new release titles to its Blu-ray catalog. They are The Monkey Goes West from 1966, Vengeance of a Snow Girl from 1971, and The Snake Prince from 1976. All 3 titles are scheduled to arrive on the market on March 26th. They did also have some TV show Imprint TV announcements as well. One was a collection of TV movies, which I guess is kind of important to note. But I just wanted to mention that very briefly. We did not get any Imprint release announcements proper yet. Probably getting those probably this week, I would assume, or next week at the latest. But The Monkey Goes West. In the vast body of Chinese literature, there is no novel more famous than The Journey to the West, and its familiar characters from the rambunctious Monkey King to lecherous Pigsy. The Monkey Goes West presents a unique interpretation with a unique cast. Ho Fan plays the monk who undertakes a journey to the West to search for the Buddhist scriptures. Among the creatures he encounters are Monkey, Pigsy, and a damsel in distress. Nicknamed the most beautiful creature in China, it's the Tang Dynasty with a 1960s sensibility and one of the more unusual costume pictures of its era. So this is the first film in a 4-film series that is an adaptation of this Chinese novel called Journey to the West. Let me get the other movies in this series. I completely forgot to pull this up beforehand because sometimes you just forget these things. Coincidentally, it's a novel that I have not read, and it's a novel that is apparently incredibly well known. So let's see. Journey to the West is the novel, and coincidentally, there are 4 parts. Let's see. Media adaptations. So list of media adaptations of Journey to the West. Let's see. Films. Here we go. Hold on. So we have 1960s Hong Kong film series by the Shaw Brothers. These are Shaw Brothers films. We have Monkey Goes West from 66, Princess Iron Fan from 66, and we have Cave of the Silken Web from 1967, and The Land of Many Perfumes from 1968. Those are the 4 adaptations done by 4-part adaptation done by the Shaw Brothers Studios of Journey to the West. Apparently, this has been adapted many, many times. If you go to the Wikipedia page, it's been adapted into stage plays, and it's been adapted into many, many movies. Wow, I did not realize there were this many movies. My goodness, it goes all the way. There's movies, there's anime, there's TV series. Um, Heck, there's a 2023 animated Netflix film called The Monkey King. um, Interesting. So yeah, I only was able to see this movie out of all three of these. So please excuse me for being incredibly not knowledgeable about these three films. Um, but this release of The Monkey Goes West, it has an audio commentary by film historian Sam Deacon, interview with film historian Paul Fonaroff, interview with director Ho Man Kwa by Frederick Ambrosin, interview with actor Wei Hua by Frederick Ambrosin, and that's it. So The Vengeance of a Snow Girl. Let's see. Lo Wei, who joined the Shaw Brothers in 1965 and helmed more than a dozen movies for the studio. This, however, was his very last Shaw Brothers film, and he shot the works with it. He co-wrote and co-starred in the late tale of a frostbitten swordsman out for revenge on the people who killed her parents and stole the coveted Sui Fang sword. An audience can only marvel at Li Qing's talent as she struggles to kill her enemies and cure her hypothermia in time for the final snowdown. Nice. So this has new audio commentary by film critic Ian Jane, new interview with film scholar Dr. Luke White, interview with actor Ku Feng by Frederick Ambrosin, an interview with actress Lisa Chow by Frederick Ambrosin. Moving on to The Snake Prince. Versatile director Lo Chen and majestic star T. Lung teamed up to make this remarkable, unusual fantasy horror epic. T. Lung is the title character who lives on the Snake Mountain of Guangxi, with his brothers, the Black Snake and the Yellow Snake, who have been trying to turn into humans for 1,000 years. Attracted by the sensual rain dance performed by three glorious tribeswomen of the nearby Mao village, they set into motion a tale of romance, greed, insanity, envy, lust, murder, and tragedy. Now, that's a lot of things. It's a lot of stuff to get into. The lovely Fanny Helen Ko, Lin Chen Chi lend their acting talent to a film that is both one of the director's last and most extraordinary. For special features, we got an audio commentary by critic/writer David West, author of Chasing Dragons, and Introduction to the Martial Arts Film. And then an interview with scholar Wayne Wong, interview with Lemur, former editor of Shaw Brothers Southern Screen Magazine, by Frederick Ambrosin. Those are the three releases from Imprint Asia from March. They are The Monkey Goes West, Vengeance of a Snow Girl, and The Snake Prince. Cool. So we are moving right along from Imprint over to, let's see, what else we've got here. Let's see. So there is a pair of releases from Flicker Alley that I want to mention. One here is called Merry-Go-Round from 1923. And Merry-Go-Round is getting released on April 1st. Flicker Alley is a label that we don't talk about a lot here on Chasing Labels because they don't release a lot. They only release a handful of releases per year. I think their last release was November. But they release really good, deeper catalog stuff. They've worked a lot with the Film Noir Foundation, which of course is the Eddie Muller company that deals with film noir. They've released several things in tandem with them. When we had Eddie Muller here on Chasing Labels back in 2022, it was in part because there was a release that they were releasing, a double feature release of The Guilty and High Tide that they were putting out, and that was why Eddie Muller was here on Chasing Labels to talk about that. The Czar of Noir, one of the greatest moments I've ever had here on Chasing Labels. I'll say that over and over again. But Flicker Alley is putting out a movie here called Merry-Go-Round. It's a silent film from 1923. It says here it's directed by Eric Stroheim and Rupert Julian. Only about 10 minutes of footage in this movie, maybe 10 minutes, is from Eric Stroheim. Eric von Stroheim was fired from the movie because he was going way over budget, and he is notoriously difficult to work with. and Rupert Julian ended up taking over and essentially making the movie, if you will. Description here is Flicker Alley and Black Hawk Films are honored to present for the first time ever on Blu-ray the new restoration of Erich von Stroheim's Merry-Go-Round. Well, you have to put Erich von Stroheim's name on this to get people interested, because or else people are not going to really be interested in this film or this release. For those of you who don't know who Erich von Stroheim is or was, of course, they wouldn't. I have to look him up. I went and looked up Merry-Go-Round on Letterboxd, and it just gives me Rupert Julian and not Erich von Stroheim. And of course, I can't spell Erich von Stroheim to save my life. Oh man, I'm just gonna copy and paste. Copy and paste can sometimes be your friend in a pinch, people. It can really help you out when you're trying not to look dumb. Here we go. Erich von Stroheim. Erich von Stroheim was an actor as well as a director. He acted more than he directed, but he directed the movies Greed. He directed Foolish Wives. He directed The Wedding March. He directed Queen Kelly. He directed Blind Husbands. But he, of course, was in. He did some acting, like I said. He was in The Grand Illusion. He was in Sunset Boulevard. He was in Five Graves to Cairo. He's in The North Star. So he did way more acting than he did directing. So in Sunset Boulevard, he plays the butler. In that movie, you if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm saying. He's the one that's taking care of Gloria Swanson's character of Norma Desmond. It's a very interesting connection there to movie history. So this movie, Merry-Go-Round, I'm just reading the synopsis here. So featuring a stellar cast that includes Norma Carey and Mary Philbin, was initially intended to be Erich von Stroheim's fourth directorial feature for Universal, following the success of Foolish Wives. Behind the scenes, however, Stroheim wrote the script, supervised the production, but was initially forbidden by the studio from headlining, and 6 weeks into shooting was fired by the new head of production, Irving Thalberg, and replaced by Rupert Julian. Flicker Alley is honored to present this newly restored edition of the film thanks to the dedicated restoration efforts of Black Hawk Films with the support of Sunrise Foundation and many archives throughout the world. This reconstructs. They reconstructed the movie essentially. This movie was kind of, I guess, a lost film, if you will. Pre-war Vienna sets the stage for a fated love affair between young, freewheeling Count Franz Maximilian and lowly organ grinder Agnes Urban in a super jewel spectacle of opulence, class, strata, and carnal desire. Let me get a more easily digestible synopsis of that film for those of you listening and watching. So, a nobleman posing as a necktie salesman falls in love with the daughter of a circus puppeteer, even though he is already married to the daughter of his country's war minister. So what you got here is a movie about, class, if you will, class exchange and all this kind of stuff. Not class exchange, but like drifting from class to class in an, archetypical society. You gotta check the movie out. If you're interested in silent film, if you're a silent film fan, definitely give this movie a watch. It's about 110 minutes long. It's not exactly a short film to get into. You got to be patient with silent film. I can't stress this enough. Watching silent movies takes a certain type of viewer. Take somebody who has a lot of attention span and a lot of patience, because it's a different form of the medium. It really is. I personally love it, but I've been watching it for years. Going into it for a first time viewer may be difficult. Especially a movie like this, a movie it's not quite a movie about spectacle. It's not Metropolis. It's not a movie also that's rather simplistic, kind of like a Charlie Chaplin comedy or a Harold Lloyd film with all of its physicality, or even with, some other stars of that time. I'm thinking of The General. I'm thinking of films like that. This movie's not quite like that. It's more of a drama, if you will, or it's not even like Nosferatu, which is obviously all the rage now with the new movie that just came out. I For those of you who have seen Nosferatu, let me know what you think about it. We talked a little bit about it last time, but obviously it's still in the theaters as of this point. Coincidentally, they just announced that it's coming out in 4K UHD February 18th. So get your 4K UHD, get your Blu-rays or whatever you want coming out in February already. The turnaround now from movies to physical media is very fast. It's very, very fast. But this is the movie Merry-Go-Round, 1923, getting a Flickr Alley release. Now, next is a double feature being put out by Flickr Alley on March 4th. This is a double feature release of Behind the Door and Below the Surface. Behind the Door came out in 1919, and Below the Surface came out in 1920. Behind the Door, I think, already had a release, while as Below the Surface did not. So Behind the Door is very good. Behind the Door is excellent. I would damn say excellent. These are both directed by, I think, Irvin V. Willett. Yes. So, description: Flickr Alley and San Francisco Film Preserve proudly present the return of Irvin V. Willett's Behind the Door, paired for the first time with his Below the Surface, both newly restored by the SFSFF, which I San Francisco Film Preserve, I guess, or whatever, and available to their most complete versions. Flickr Alley's initial publication of Behind the Door was honored as best DVD/Blu-ray disc at Il Cinema Retrovate. Like I said, yeah, Behind the Door had already been released years ago. Legendary producer Thomas H. Ince and director Irvin V. Willett made the Behind the Door the most outspoken of all the Vengeance films, according to film historian Kevin Brownlow, during the period of World War I inspired American patriotism. So, Behind the Door, like I said, is damn good movie. It's a revenge film, which already had me interested. So what happens is, it takes place during, well, it came out in 1919, but it takes place during the beginning or during World War One, set in, I believe, small town Maine. Robert Bosworth stars as Oscar Krug, a working class American who is persecuted for his German ancestry after war is declared. Driven by patriotism, Krug enlists and goes to sea. So he is like a small town Maine business owner. Like, he runs a taxidermy shop, and the war gets declared, and he's of German descent, and people automatically turn on him. Like, they automatically persecute him, they automatically go after him, and he has no, interest or ties to Germany or anything like that. But they go after him, so he decides that, hey, I'm going to prove to these people that I'm not what they're saying, and I'm going to enlist in the Navy. And he enlists and he becomes a captain. But he has a wife as well. Hold on, I'm bouncing around here from tab to tab. And he goes to sea. Yeah, his wife sneaks aboard his ship, and she like stowaways because she just wants to like be with him. And obviously, wives are not supposed to be on the ships, let alone during wartime. And what happened is the ship gets attacked by a U-boat, and it sinks. And she and him both get stranded on a lifeboat. And a U-boat comes along and picks them up, but they capture her and then leave him to drown. And needless to say, that's where the revenge kicks in. I'm not saying anything else. That's where the revenge kicks in. It's a good movie. Good movie. The acting in this movie by Hobart Bosworth is frighteningly good. Yeah, it's a damn good movie. Damn good movie. So the next film, which is the movie Below the Surface, he reteams with Hobart Bosworth the following year with Below the Surface, setting the star as a deep sea diver, Martin Flint, who, along with his son Paul, become heroes after saving the lives of downed submarine crew. Unfortunately, their fame draws the attention of James Arnold, who enlists Paul in a deadly scheme involving sinking ships, lost treasure, and the love of Edna Gordon. So this character of James Arnold gets this woman to basically seduce this Paul character of the son of the Martin Flint character to do this like dangerous thing. So they like trick him to do it. But meanwhile, his father's like telling him, you know, that it's a ruse, don't do this, all this kind of stuff. So it creates this rift between father and son. And I don't want to say anything else, but just they obviously more complications ensue after that. But yeah, both films are worth a watch. The first film, Behind the Door, is the star of the show. I can't stress that enough. So for extra features, you get a Russian version of Behind the Door, the re-edited and retitled version of the film that was distributed in Russia with musical accompaniment by Stephen Horn. You get outtakes from Behind the Door featuring music composed and performed by Stephen Horn, restoring Irvin Willat's Behind the Door, a behind-the-scenes look at the restoration. Kevin Brownlow spotlight Irvin Willat, film historian and honorary Academy Awards winner. Kevin Brownlow spotlights director Irvin Willat. Slideshow gallery of stills and promotional material from Behind the Door and Below the Surface. Printed essays featuring writing on both films by historians Jay Weisberg and Scott Simon. Or Simon. Simon, I'm not sure. But obviously you can tell the bulk of the special features are for Behind the Door. Because that's the movie. That's the movie you want to see. Yeah, I'm excited for this release. I've got to get more Flickr Alley stuff in my collection. The reason why I don't have a lot of Flickr Alley stuff is, they only put out a couple of releases a year, and they're rather expensive, for what they are. So I kind of wait until I can find them for on sale, and they don't go on sale very often, unfortunately. But I've got a bunch of them actually saved online for me to buy at some point. One just did actually drop in price to a sale price that I am very it looks very appetizing to me as a collector and as a financially conscious person as well. But that is the two Flickr Alley releases. That is Merry Go Round, which is coming out in April, and that is Behind the Door / Below the Surface, which is coming out March 4th. Cool stuff. Let's see. We have some other individual things here, and I do want to mention that I'll mention this briefly this is off the cuff, guys. I don't want to get into much with this because this wasn't really an official release. This was in a newsletter. So Mondo Macabro sent out a newsletter to people, basically just updating us on what's going on over there when it comes to the Halloween releases that they're still working on getting to people. Obviously, those things take time and whatnot, so obviously be patient with that, but also announcing what they've got upcoming for this year. They've got Halloween titles already in place for next Halloween as well, but they've actually got some titles that they're going to be announcing, I believe, in March-ish area, and those titles are Evan Man, Return of Evan Man. No, yeah, Eva Man, Return of Eva Man, Dead Man's Shoes. No, hold on. I'm all over the place. Devil's Nightmare, I think, is going to be coming. That's one of the titles for Halloween next year. And then you have, hold on, let me actually pull this up. I was gonna go off the cuff here, but obviously I can't be going off the cuff when it comes to this, just because I'm doing us all a disservice. I'm making things up. You guys are ill-informed. We can't have this. We can't have this. Let me see if I can just Google Mondo Macabro newsletter. Okay, so in the year 2025, so once we finally get beyond those damn Halloween sale titles, we do have some very interesting stuff planned for you. Basically, we are going very deep into cinematic obscurity. We have Argentinian films, Yugoslavian films, Greek films, Kazakh films, total straight up art films, total straight up sleaze films, blue upgrades of long forgotten DVDs, forgotten entries in the filmographies of cherished Euro cult auteurs. And later in the year, to get you comfortable again, UHD and blue upgrades of some favorites from our catalog, one of which we can announce now. We are currently working on a brand new 4K restoration of the Belgian / Italian horror classic Devil's Nightmare. The UHD upgrade of this uncanny work of bizarre Eurotrash cinema will be on sale during the 2025 October Halloween sale. That's what I was referring to. Okay, I'm glad I looked this up then. So yeah, they're working on those October 2025 Halloween titles now. But obviously that announcement will be later on down the line. But we can but it says, but we can make the announcement of the first new lineup of films for the year in March/April. We have 2 Blu-ray double features for you. Eurosleeves Hounds Unite, because you are really going to love these. So if you've been missing us doing sleazy Greek films for the 60s and from the 60s and 70s, well, us too. But we have a couple of Greek double features lined up for you this year, and our first pre-order of 2025 will feature the first lady. It's going to be Lady Desire and Sexomania. So that will be the first double feature. They're going to announce this in March/April. And then the next double feature that they're going to be announcing, the second film in this double feature repackage, is the 1974 release of Sexomania. And then, so Sexomania is the second film. Yeah. It's also known as, hold on, I'm losing my mind here. Yeah, so it's going to be Lady Desire and Sexomania, and then it's going to be Eva Man and the Return of Eva Man. There we go. Sorry, I'm just skimming through this right here and trying to make sure I got the right information. So those will be the 2 double features that they will announce in March/April. So keep on the lookout for that. I just wanted to mention that quickly. And then I do want to talk about some other stuff here quickly, and then we will finish up eventually with Criterion. Criterion will be our grand finale. So there's this movie called Losing Ground being put out by Milestone Films. Milestone Films has actually already put this out a while ago. They actually put this out back in 2016, but there is a new release. They're re-releasing it again. They're re-releasing it on March 18th, 2025. And this is a movie that is more historically significant than, I would say, an actual great film. So Sarah Rogers, a professor of philosophy, is writing a dissertation on the nature of ecstatic experience in art and religion. Her husband, Victor, is a painter of abstract canvases who finds his eye drawn to people and landscapes. When the couple rents a country house for the summer, the intellectual and emotional boundaries defining their world begin to shift as Victor turns to painting realistic pictures featuring a local girl, while Sarah agrees to act in a film made by one of her students. So you've got this film about this couple they're different, and they have different interests, different intellect, different different intelligence, I guess you could say, or views of intelligence. One's more artsy, one's more academic, one is more based on emotion, one is more based off of books and knowledge and all that kind of stuff. And then they try to go on this vacation together, but they end up drifting into different areas. The husband ends up kind of hanging out with this young woman who he's painting. The woman ends up going on to acting in a film, and she ends up also striking up a relationship and conversation with another actor in this film, who is dressed to the nines in this movie. The man's wearing a cape and a cool ass hat. But this movie is directed by Kathleen Collins. This movie actually never got theatrical distribution. This movie never got a physical media release until Milestone put this out on DVD and Blu-ray in 2016. This woman, Kathleen Collins, I think was the second ever African-American woman to direct a feature-length film. And this movie came out in 1982. This movie came out in 1982. At that time, obviously at that time. And her film, like I said, never got theatrical distribution, only played at film festivals. She passed away in 1988. And it wasn't until obviously decades later that I think her daughter wanted to get her movie out there, wanted to get her movie distributed. And she came to Milestone Films to, restore it and put it out, and they did. And now we're getting another Blu-ray re-release of it now. This is a 2-disc edition. I'm excited about this. The movie itself is not great in this sense. You have kind of non-professional actors working in this film, so some of the line reading and some of that is, comes off as amateurish. It's not quite as fluid as professionals would deliver it. It's a low-budgeted film as well. You can tell it was shot on location in local areas and whatnot. But what's but it, but it's there's something there. There's something there to grasp onto. There's something there thematically to get into. It's also part autobiographical from the director's perspective. Um, it's an interesting film, historically important film called Losing Ground. Came out in 1982. This is coming out March 18th from Milestone. Uh, Check it out if you haven't already. But go into it expecting what I just said. Expecting it to be incredibly indie, if you will. Um, Definitely interested in getting this release at some point. So that is Losing Ground. Um, let's see, we talked about Mondo Macabro. VCI has 2 releases. VCI has Empire of the Dark. Let me look this up really quickly. Empire of the Dark, which I honestly did not get to see. This is coming out April 22nd, 2025, which is this year. Let's see. Yes, there it is. So, 20 years ago, police officer Richard Flynn stepped through a swirling vortex into another dimension to try and save the woman he loved and her infant baby from being sacrificed in a satanic ritual, as one does. The baby's mother, Angela, perished, or did she? 20 years later, the infant, now a young man, is being pursued again by the same sinister figures Flynn killed that evil night. These immortals must have the boy's life to complete the sacrifice they began 20 years ago, a ritual that will release upon the earth a legion of ancient demons. Together, Flynn and the boy set out on a journey that will take them over rivers of lava, through underground caves stretching hundreds of miles, and on through the very gates of hell. Along their treacherous path, the two must face giant demons and a legion of soldiers of the army of darkness. Um, yeah, this is like a B movie adventure from 1990, a B movie apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy adventure, horror adventure from 1990. Um, I don't know anything else about it. I honestly don't know anything else about it. I've never heard of it up until now. All I know is that VCI Home Entertainment is putting it out. And then next, we've got another VCI film called The Naked Witch / The Witchmaker. So this is getting released by VCI in May 13th. So that's like 4 months from now. That's a while from now. Um, so, description: Dr. Ralph Hayes is a professor of paranormal studies who leads a group into the Louisiana swamp to investigate a string of murders. His student Tasha is a psychic whose powers have been inherited from her witch ancestors. Hayes believes that witchcraft is the reason behind the murders of the young women, and reporter Victor Gordon is out to cover the story. The trail eventually leads to Luther the Berserk, a sorcerer of incredible powers who, after drinking the blood of his victims, has the ability to raise the dead as his unholy army of the night. The efforts of the human researchers collide with the supernatural forces of evil in this terrifying future. Yes, a B horror movie from 1969, dealing with witchcraft, dealing with necromancy, dealing with all kinds of stuff. Go into it with super low expectations. Super low expectations. Yeah, that's. I did actually get to see this movie. It's a tough. It's not a great movie, so it's not an easy watch. But it's exactly what you expect it to be. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, our friends over at Second Sight are busy. Busy guys over there over at Second Sight. Um, Let me go check on what they're up to. They've got some Blu-rays, they got some 4Ks on the way, and we will get into what they've got cooking over there. So first on the docket, let me just kick it off right here. A pair of David Cronenberg films. Limited edition 4K UHD coming out March 31st of The Brood. Now, The Brood, many of you probably already know, has a Criterion Blu-ray that's been around for years. But this release here is obviously a 4K UHD, so you get the upgrade right off the bat. Bunch of special features here. Obviously, a new 4K restoration approved by David Cronenberg. It's both the Blu-ray and the UHD. These of course are region B locked. The Blu-rays will be region B locked. The 4Ks are region free, so no worries there. We got a new commentary by Martin Contario and Kat Ellinger. Boom, right there, right off the bat. Audio commentary by William Baird. Meet the Carveths, an interview with actors Art Hindle and Cindy Hinz by Fangoria editor Chris Alexander. Producing the Brood, an interview with executive producer Pierre David. Look of Rage, an interview with cinematographer Mark Irwin. Scoring the Brood, an interview with composer Howard Shore. Character for Cronenberg, an interview with actor Robert A. Silverman. Anger Management, Cronenberg's Brood, and the Shapes of Cinematic Rage, a video essay by Lee Singer. And then Cronenberg, the early years, an archival interview with David Cronenberg. Obviously, it's going to be one of those thick editions that we know and love. 120-page book with essays in it. Damn, that's damn thick. 6 collectible art cards. The Brood is an early work from David Cronenberg. It says, a worried father attempts to uncover a controversial psychologist's unconventional therapy techniques on his institutionalized wife amidst a series of horrific murders that seem to be targeting those closest to him. Yeah, the cover art for this is pretty darn great. Yeah, it's Cronenberg. If you're a fan of Cronenberg, you know the story. You know the story here. Next up, we've got Scanners. Scanners, once again, already has a Blu-ray release from Criterion as well. But this is getting a limited edition 4K UHD and Blu-ray release, March 31st as well, is when it's coming out. A scientist recruits a drifter with extraordinary telepathic ability to hunt down an equally powerful scanner who, together with others of their kind, is hell-bent on taking over the world. Region B locked, of course, but the UHD will be region free. New 4K restoration approved by David Cronenberg. New audio commentary by Calum Vatnsdal. Audio commentary by William Baird. My Art Keeps Me Sane, an interview with actor Stephen Black. Method in His Madness, an interview with actor Michael Ironside. Hello. Bad Guy Dane, an interview with actor Lawrence Dane. The Eye of Scanners, an interview with cinematographer Mark Irwin. Mind Fragments, an interview with composer Howard Shore. The Chaos of Scanners, an interview with executive producer Pierre David. Exploding Brains and Popping Veins, an interview with makeup effects artist Stephen Dupuis. Monster Kid, an interview with makeup effects artist Chris Wallace. And then Cronenberg Tech Babies, a video essay by Tim Coleman. 120-page book with essays as well. You get 6 collectible art cards. Yeah, this is a double dose of Cronenberg goodness. If you don't own these movies already, obviously these are the way to go. If you already own the Criterion releases, you may want to do a little compare and contrast in terms of special features. Or if you're a big David Cronenberg fan and you want it all, buy them, get them. But next up on the docket is The Nice Guys is getting a 4K UHD and Blu-ray limited edition and standard edition from them. It says in the works. So I don't know when it's coming. I don't know what the details will be when it comes to special features. All I know is that this is another Warner Brothers release, or Warner Brothers catalog title, more accurately, that has been lent out to a boutique label. We're seeing it now with Arrow, we're seeing it now with Criterion, and we're seeing it now with Second Sight. Warner Brothers has opened up the catalog. They are shelling it out. They need the money. They need the money any way they can, so they are shelling it out, which is kind of cool. So you got The Nice Guys. This is the Shane Black film from several years ago, starring Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. Great modern neo-noir. Criminally underrated, I think, still. I don't know why more people didn't watch this film when it came out. I know many people in the film world loved it. I loved it. I still love it. I think it's very rewatchable. Great screenplay. It's dealing with private eyes in the 1970s. So that's really cool. It's funny. It's got a good script, great acting, great cast. Like I said, Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling, Angoras Rice, Matt Bomer, Margaret Qualley, Keith David's in the film. It's there's a lot going on in a positive way in this movie. If you haven't seen The Nice Guys yet, uh, watch it. Watch it. I can't say more than that. Watch it. So let's see what else is going on over at Second Sight. Let's see. I think there's at least one more news story. There is here. So I think it was last year we talked about Dead Man's Shoes and how they were working on release of this movie called Dead Man's Shoes. I know because I watched it for the show. We talked about it here on Chasing Labels, and they've been working on it. And so there's a bit of an update here. It says, for the past year, we've been trying to source material for a new 4K restoration. We have explored all avenues with the kind help of producers, but unfortunately the elements could not be found. We are, however, currently working on a Blu-ray release. So the release of Dead Man's Shoes is going to be going from a 4K release to a Blu-ray release because I'm guessing they're having a lot of trouble finding the proper source material, proper elements. Perhaps they can't find the original elements to do a proper 4K restoration. And when it comes to 4K restorations, you need the original elements, or as close to the original elements or proper source materials as you can get. And if you can't find them, then you got to do other things. You got to work with what you have. And it's probably best to go with just a Blu-ray release than a 4K restoration. Yeah, that's unfortunately that's the case. Second Sight notoriously waited a long time to find the source material rights or the source material elements to The Hitcher. That's what was part of that release taking so long. And they were able to hunt them down, and it worked out because that 4K release, I rewatched it recently, still looks amazing. One of my favorite releases of 2024 is, I got it right here, is this release from Second Sight. I think this is one of the greatest releases from 2024. It looks so damn good. So damn good. I am still like shocked by how amazing this looks. And that's what happens when you track down the original elements, and you're able to work with them. You maximize the picture quality. Now, obviously, for many reasons, you if you can't find it, you work with what you can. But yeah, let's see what else we've got here. That was what was been going on over at Second Sight. Let me go back to my notes. So let me look this up really quick, and then we'll get to. Okay, there's two more individual things. Then we get to Criterion, and then we're done. We're done with episode / spy number 156, and then I shall do the closing, and we will be good. How are we doing on time? Yeah, we're probably going to be hitting that 3 hour or over mark again, but that's okay. That's okay. We're here to talk movies. Let me go over to. Here we are, over on Blu-ray.com, which I'm getting all of my information from, well, most of it. That and Facebook and the internet in general. So we haven't talked about these guys in a long, long time. This company we haven't talked about, but we know them over there. They actually do really good work, and they haven't put out a release in a little while. They haven't put out a release since November, and they only put out 2 releases in 2024, and that is Arbelos. So Arbelos, small company, one half of the guys over at Canadian International Pictures. This is his label as well. Can't remember which of them. Well, we interviewed them over on Canadian International Pictures. One of them, this is his line. And Arbelos has been putting out stuff for years. Last year, they put out the movie Twilight and 2/Duo. Our Twilight I did see, very good movie, very, very good movie. If you go over to the Arbelos website, they actually have like website exclusive limited editions that are very, very nice. I wasn't aware of that until like last year. And you can only get them from their website. They're limited to like 1,000 copies, I think. Yeah, they're limited to like 1,000 copies, but their newest release that's coming out in March is this movie called The Bloody Lady. Now, I wasn't able to see this movie, although I wanted to, but it's another one of those where it's tough to find. It's really tough to find. Let me get the synopsis here from Letterboxd. Yes. So, The Bloody Lady from 1981. It says the romantic story of crime and love, according to the historical legends of the, oh boy, Kachtika Castle, written, animated, and directed by Victor Kubal. The folktale about Bloody Lady Bathory doomed to bathe in the blood of young girls in order to be forever youthful herself. And I believe this is an animated film. Let me see if I can find out the country of origin of this movie. I want to say Scandinavian of some kind, but I'm not quite sure. A folktale about the Bloody Lady Bathory doomed to bathe in the blood. Okay, same thing. Same synopsis on IMDb if anybody's interested. It just says language. Oh, it's a Czech film. The Czech film. Okay. Yeah, it's a 72-minute long Czech animated film from 1981. Or 1980/1981. Talk about obscure. Talk about obscure. This seems like a movie Deaf Crocodile would have put out. Maybe they just couldn't get their hands on it. But yeah, so that is, and I don't think there's any. Oh, there are special features and stuff. Okay. Oh, I found this here. I don't know. I should just read this. So it's a new 2K restoration from the original 35mm camera negative by Slovak Film Institute. New restoration of there's a bunch of things here. There's a new restoration of Jericho the Highwayman, including over 20 restored short films. I'm not going to read all of them here. Go to Blu-ray.com and you can look up The Bloody Lady, and you can read all of them here. But there's also a 12-page booklet as well. It's a region-free release. You can watch a trailer for the movie. You can see the cover art for the movie. These are all works by Victor Kubal. So all short films from like the 60s and 70s and into the 80s and into the 80s. So that's interesting. There's a whole description here as well, but yeah, I think that other description is just fine. And this is coming out March 11th. Then next up here is Cohen Media is putting out a double feature of In the Custody and the Proprietor. So In Custody, a poet of Urdu fame is struggling with his legacy while an aspiring poet and historian comes to document him like never before, and in return becomes custodian of the great poet's last verses. That's interesting. The Proprietor tells the story of Adrienne Marc, Jean Moreau, a respected French Jewish writer who lives in New York, a virtual prisoner of her memories of growing up in wartime France when her childhood home is placed up for auction. Adrienne's desire to purchase the property and return to her homeland is complicated by feelings of betrayal, persecution, and lingering secrets regarding her mother's death during World War II. It is a touching tale about change, friendship, and of reconciling with one's past as a way to make peace with the present. That sounds That sounds fascinating. So you've got disc 1, which is In Custody. Conversations from the Quad, James Ivory and Nasheed Kamar Farouk discuss In Custody. 3 legacy interviews featuring Ismail Merchant, Shashi Kapoor, Shabana Azmi, and Ampuri. And then disc 2 is The Proprietor, which it has an audio commentary by film critic Wade Major. And then Mahatma and the Mad Boy, a 1974 short film directed by Ismail Merchant. Yeah, I am very, very intrigued by this. This is coming out March 25th. It's a 2-disc set, of course. So now we move to the grand finale. We move over to Criterion. Criterion. Here we are again. So we have the April releases for Criterion. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 releases from them. A mix of upgrades and new stuff. So first up here, The Prince of Broadway, the Sean Baker film, is coming out April 29th. And then also on April 29th is Basquiat. And then we have Anora, which is the other Sean Baker film, coming out April 29th. And then we have Jean de Florette / Manon of the Spring, 2 films by Claude Berri. That's coming out April 22nd. And then we've got some upgrades here. We've got on April 15th, Chungking Express, the Wong Kar-wai film, is getting a 4K release. And then we've got Some Like It Hot, The Billy Wilder film on April 8th is getting a 4K release as well. Hot off of the heels of Kino losing the distribution rights to Some Like It Hot for their 4K release, Criterion wasted no time to put out their own. No time whatsoever. They jumped right on it. I guess we will start there. Uh, uh, what's interesting is I'm pretty sure the special features for the 4K release from Kino and the Blu-ray release from uh, Criterion were a little bit different, and obviously that's going to be the case here. So many of you know Some Like It Hot. It's the classic Billy Wilder film from 1959, starring Jack Lemmon and Marilyn Monroe, as well as Tony Curtis. Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis skip town and decide to join this band, but they have to dress up as women. A notoriously progressive film in that regard, and they've got to pretend to be in this band as women. Jack Lemmon stays dressed as a woman when they're performing at this place in Florida. I'm going to read this here. One of the most beloved films of all time, the sizzling masterpiece by Billy Wilder, set a new standard for Hollywood comedy. After witnessing a mob hit Chicago musicians Joe and Jerry, Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, skip town by donning drag and joining an all-female band en route to Miami. The charm of the group's singer, Sugarcane, Marilyn Monroe, leads them even further into extravagant lies as Joe assumes the persona of a millionaire to woo her, and Jerry's female alter ego winds up engaged to a tycoon. With a whip-smart script by Wilder and IAL Diamond, and sparking chemistry among its finely tuned cast, Some Like It Hot is as deliriously funny and fresh today as it was when it first knocked audiences out several decades ago. Quite honestly, one of my favorite movies of all time. Certainly, perhaps my favorite Marilyn Monroe film of all time. This movie is timeless. It's so timeless. It's so great. It's so progressive. It's so ahead of its time. It's so well written. It's so funny. It's so damn perfect. Um, Joey Brown in this movie, who is that rich tycoon that this synopsis refers to, is hilarious. Jack Lemmon is hilarious. Tony Curtis is doing an impression of Cary Grant to portray this fake millionaire who's trying to woo the Marilyn Monroe character. This movie's, like I said, damn near perfect. Own this movie any way you can. Any way you can. It's a must-have for any collection. It's a must-have for any film library. It's great. So we got an audio commentary from 1989 featuring film scholar Howard Suber. Program on Ori Kelly's costumes for the film, featuring costume designer and historian Deborah Nadelman Landis and costume historian and archivist Larry McQueen. 3 behind-the-scenes documentaries, appearances by director Billy Wilder on The Dick Cavett Show from 1982, conversation from 2001 between actor Tony Curtis and film critic Leonard Maltin. Oh, that's great. French television interview from 1988 with actor Jack Lemmon. Radio interview from 1955 with actor Marilyn Monroe. I already have the Blu-ray version of this that they put out a few years ago, which was also from a 4K digital, which was from the 4K digital restoration. It looks amazing. I don't know whether I'm going to upgrade this immediately or not. Perhaps eventually, because like I said, I actually have the original, I think 20th Century Fox release. Let me check, of Some Like It Hot. I have that, and I have like I said, the Criterion. I never bought the 4K that was put out by Kino. But yeah, the original release, which came out 2011, was an MGM release, actually. So I have that original MGM Blu-ray. I have the Criterion Blu-ray. I mean, for completion's sake, might as well buy the 4K from Kino at this point. Just to have them all. You can never have too many copies of this movie. So the Kino release does have stuff that the Criterion does not. Billy Wilder and Volker Schlondorf discuss Some Like It Hot. That's not on the Criterion. Nostalgic Look Back is a film conversation between Tony Curtis and critic Leonard Maltin. That is on the Criterion. More with Billy Wilder and Volker Schlondorf. So just more of them talking. It's like an extra 6 minutes of that. That's not on the Criterion. Tribute to IAL Diamond is not on the Criterion. Um, so you do get some things that are different. I think the featurettes are on the Criterion, and there's an exclusive commentary that's on the Kino that you don't get on the Criterion. I don't think there was a commentary at all here. Oh no, there was the commentary from film scholar Howard Suber, which is actually not on the Kino. Yeah. So the commentary that's on the Criterion is not on the Kino, but the two commentaries that are on the Kino are not on the Criterion. You see how you have to play a mix and match game. you see how you see how as a film collector, and when you want everything, how you have to own multiple copies of a movie. Like people wonder why I own multiple copies of certain movies. It's reasons like this, like because of licensing and rights and all this kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, I was just gonna say, if I wanted to be a completist right now, I could just buy the Kino 4K release, still have the movie in 4K, and get the extras that I don't have from the Kino from the Criterion release. That's something you could do if you already have the original Criterion Blu-ray release. This is just stuff ruminating in my mind. But yep, that is Some Like It Hot, the Billy Wilder classic. Another one that's getting a 4K re-release as well is Ugetsu, April 1st. Not a April Fool's joke. Let me just talk about this right away. We did a whole episode on this. If you are on the Apple Podcast or where you'll find the audio version of this, we did a whole episode um, on the Cinema Discovery Project days with our previous podcast, where we did a whole episode on Kenji Mizoguchi's Ugetsu. Great Japanese ghost story film. Japanese horror ghost story film. Movie's amazing. Movie is amazing. So, by the time he made Ugetsu, Kenji Mizoguchi was already an elder statesman of Japanese cinema, fiercely revered by Akira Kurosawa and other directors of a younger generation. And with this exquisite ghost story, a fatalistic wartime tragedy derived from stories by Akinari Ueda and Guy de Maupassant, he created a touchstone of his art, his long takes and sweeping camera, guiding the viewer through a delirious narrative about two villagers whose pursuit of fame and fortune leads them far astray from their loyal wives, moving between the terrestrial and otherworldly. Ugetsu reveals essential truths about the ravages of war, the plight of women, and the pride of men. Yeah, that doesn't really tell you what the movie's about, but trust me, the movie is amazing. I would recommend this movie to anyone and everyone. This doesn't tell you anything either. I went over to IMDb, and the IMDb one is just as vague as the one over here on the Criterion page. But Ugetsu for me is like a 5-star film. It's incredible. In 16th century Japan, peasants Kanjuro and Tobei sell their earthenware pots to a group of soldiers in a nearby village in defiance of a local sage's warnings against seeking to profit from warfare. Genjuro's pursuit of both riches and the mysterious Lady Wakasa, as well as Tobei's desire to become a samurai, run the risk of destroying both themselves and their wives Miyagi and Ohama. Yeah, watch this movie. It's extraordinary. It is extraordinary. Yet again, I already have the Blu-ray. So the Blu-ray has all of these special features. It's not a 4K. It doesn't have the 4K restoration, anything like that. But you do get an audio commentary by film critic, filmmaker, festival programmer Tony Raines. Kenji Mizoguchi, The Life of a Film Director, a 1975 documentary by Kaneto Shindo. Hello. Two Worlds Intertwined, a 2005 appreciation of Ugetsu by Masahiro Shinoda. Process and production, a 2005 interview with Tokuzo Tanaka, first assistant director on Ugetsu. Interview from 92 with cinematographer Kazuo Miyagawa. So let's move. We're moving in reverse now. Chungking Express, the Wong Kar-wai film. This has been released so many times by Criterion. This has been released on DVD. It's been released on Blu-ray. It's been released on Blu-ray again in the Wong Kar-wai box set, and it's been now released in 4K here. So The whiplash double-pronged Chungking Express is one of the defining works of the 1990s cinema and the film that made Wong Kar-wai an instant icon. Two heartsick Hong Kong cops, Takashi Kaneshiro and Tony Leung Chi-wai, both jilted by ex-lovers, cross paths at the Midnight Express takeout food stand where the ethereal pixie waitress Faye works. Anything goes in Wong's gloriously shot and utterly unexpected charmer, which cemented the sex appeal of its gorgeous stars and forever turned canned pineapple and the mamas and the papas California dreamin' into tokens of romantic longing. This movie, obviously, I believe, is a big fan, has a big fan of in Quentin Tarantino. Um, yeah, you get a 4K digital restoration. An interview with 2000 from 2002 with cinematographer Christopher Doyle, episode of Moving Pictures from '96 featuring interviews with Wong and Doyle, deleted scenes, and that is it. They haven't added anything to this release, no matter how many times they've released it, which is disappointing. A movie of this caliber, a movie of this reverence, a movie that's loved by cinephiles and filmmakers alike, and and so many people. I was going to say everyone, but not everyone loves everything, but just people in general. Um, it's fascinating that this movie hasn't had a more deluxe special features package from Criterion after all this time. Pretty sure there's tons of people that want to talk about it. They've just been releasing the same packages over and over again. But speaking of packages, we have a double feature here of Jean de Florette, Manon of the Spring, and two films by Claude Berri. A sprawling tale of greed, betrayal, and revenge plays out amid the bucolic splendor of the French countryside in Claude Berry's masterly two-film adaptation of a literary work by the legendary Marcel Pagnol. Spanning three generations in the lives of two families, Jean de Florette and Manon of the Spring, vividly recreate the provincial world of an early 20th century village where an outsider's arrival sets in motion a devastating chain of events with glorious cinematography, keen insights into human nature, and superb performances from icons of French cinema, Gerard Depardieu, Yves Montand, Daniel Auteuil, and Emmanuel Bérat. These richly absorbing moral tales at the time of their production, the most expensive French films ever made, are triumphs of epic storytelling in the classical tradition. So, originally Marcel Pagnol uh, tried to make this movie called Jean de Florette back. Oh boy, let me actually whip up the IMDb trivia for this one. Tried to make it, and I think the studio kind of butchered their film. So they decided to turn it into a novel, a long novel. Okay, so I have to go to the Wikipedia for this because that's not going to help me. So he decided to make it into a novel, which then got adapted into this essentially two parts. Yeah, so the original novel's title is called The Water of the Hills, and the original film it was made by Pagnol in 1952 called Manon of the Spring. So originally it was supposed to be just Manon of the Spring part. So the second movie was the original movie was going to be. And what happened is I think um there was a problem with the production, or yeah, they didn't get to basically turn the movie into what they wanted it to be. And they decided that they were going to write it out as a novel, and not only write it out as a novel, but create an entire a prequel backstory as well, and that's what Jean de Florette is. It's like the prequel story of what the original story of of the original story. And what is interesting is that watching these back to back creates like one long epic story of like family drama, cultural drama, and two really great films. Really great French films. Like it said, this was like the most expensive French film ever made at the time. Keep in mind this is like 1982, I believe, 1986 actually. Um, and yeah, so what you've got here is, oh man, it's tough to like boil this down. So Jean de Florette, um, you've got these two guys. and they decide that they want to buy this land because they are growing carnations, and they want to grow carnations and sell them. And they've got a plot of land, but they want to, they want to expand, and they want to basically buy their neighbor's land, but their neighbor doesn't want to sell to them, doesn't want to sell to them. So they get in an argument, and they accidentally end up, uh, getting rid of the neighbor. Well, not getting rid of him. There's a fight that ensues. Accident happens. The neighbor dies, um, and then the neighbor's, I think, daughter takes over, and actually, I've got the synopsis up right here, but I don't know why I'm just guessing. This is also set in Provence in the early 20th century, like I would say early like 1920s. So it takes place outside a village in Provence. Provence is a beautiful area, southeastern province in France. Beautiful, beautiful area. Apparently, this movie like made it like a tourist attraction because it was such a beautiful location. Um, yeah, and then it's inherited by the guy's sister who they accidentally kill. And then as they're kind of negotiating with her, um she ends up passing away, which go and then so then it ends up going to her son. And her son is Jean Cadre, who is like, he's a tax collector and he's an outsider, and he moves there with his family. He's portrayed by Gerard Depardieu. And they like, okay, we're gonna buy from this guy, but he doesn't want to sell. He wants to farm the land. He wants to, do stuff with the land himself. So they're like, damn, we wanted this land. Also, what also is, they discover a water source on the land, a spring, and that spring is vital to cultivating this land. Like, it's going to make this land valuable. It's going to make people able to grow stuff on this land. You can get rich off of this land because of it. They discover it on there, and they actually plug it up. They plug it up so that anybody working or anybody who owns the land thinks the land is worth less than what it is. And they decide that they're going to keep that a secret between them. They're not going to tell anybody about it because they want this land cheap. But this guy, the Gerard Depardieu character, he wants to farm the land. And they make this guy's life like a living nightmare, where they obviously don't tell him about the water source on there. So this guy he's trying to farm this land, and he can't do it because he doesn't have water source to keep the land fertile, to keep the land being able to grow on it and to make it profitable. So they basically screw this guy over, and he just has a dismal time with him and his family. And needless to say, bad things happen to him. And the second part of the movie, the what says Manion of the what's it Manion of the source. Hold on, let me get back. Manon of the Spring is kind of the you move forward in years and you get the aftermath of those events of the first film. I won't say what happens, but you get the aftermath of that, and you get certain results of that, and it continues with a time jump forward. Both of these films back to back, awesome, a great watch, great films, great acting, great writing, good themes that are very contemporary, very well thought out themes. It's very much a literary book come to life in all of its richness. I really like these movies a lot. Like this is a great release from Criterion. This is a 4K release. It's a 4-disc set, so this is going to be a nice set. Let's see what we got here for special features. Absolutely goddamn nothing. Okay. So we've got 2 special features. Ah, damn it. Claude Berri, the Car Dealer, a 2018 documentary on director Claude Berri's life and career. The Force of Destiny, a 2017 documentary about the making of the films. That's it. I'm hoping those are substantial runtimes on both of those special features. If not, what a colossal error. Like, you couldn't get anybody to do anything on this. Come on, Criterion, you're killing me here. You got 2 great films and you're just giving us that. Oh, whatever. Anywho, moving on to Anora. Adam Schofield says it's schemy on a Shakespearean way. Saw these when it came. I'm assuming came out. Wonder why this release isn't named Manon des Sources. I don't know. I don't know. Um, but you are right, Adam. It is very Shakespearean. Because when you're dealing with familial drama and you're dealing with like legacy and things like that, you got to think Shakespeare right away. You're thinking of like interfamily rivalries, and you're thinking of uh, stuff like that. You got to think Shakespearean because it is very tragic and schemy, and behind the scenes things are happening, and people are screwing over one another. I don't know. I'm more disappointed in the fact that we're only getting two special features with them. They're two documentaries, granted. Hopefully they're they're lengthy, but man, I really want more about these movies. Like like the making of these movies is fascinating to me. These films were shot back to back. I think they came out like 1 year after the other, so this was a huge undertaking to do. Um, so hopefully we get some insider information in those documentaries. But moving backwards once again, you know what I'll do is I'll save the Sean Baker films for last. I'll go with Basquiat, um, or Basquiat. So Julian Schnabel's tribute to his friend and fellow painter Jean-Michel Basquiat is less a conventional biopic than an impressionistic sensory immersion into the much mythologized downtown Manhattan art world of the 1980s. Jeffrey Wright, in his first lead film role, stars as the visionary artist whose rise from the graffiti tagger to art star forces him to confront the glare of sudden fame, along with racism, his own struggles with addiction, and the difficulties of being self-determining and free in America. Bolstered by an ensemble cast that includes a sublime performance by David Bowie channeling Andy Warhol, Schnabel's different directorial debut, presented here in the filmmaker's own luminous black and white remastering, is a profound elegy, a profoundly expressive elegy for a radiant life cut short. And yeah, that's very well said. So Jean-Michel Basquiat was a kind of he was an artist, a I think a neo expressionist artist. Hold on, let me look him up quickly. Can't remember. Yeah, Basquiat. He was neo expressionism. That was his thing. A lot of art graffiti on the streets of New York. He had a quick rise to fame. Unfortunately passed away in 1988 at the young age of 27. He battled with drug addiction and things like that, and you see that throughout this movie how that greatly hindered him, obviously on a very personal level. The movie is a biopic, but it's not a birth to death biopic or anything like that. Not a traditional biopic, in that sense. It's very, very focused on him in the 70s and 80s, his rise to fame, dealing with drug addiction, dealing with certain personal demons and stuff like that, personal relationships and things like that. Really good, really good film. Really good film, kind of all over the place, not really focused as much as you would want. Um, Early role for Jeffrey Wright, who I think is a great actor. Jeffrey Wright is a fantastic actor. This cast in this film, you recognize a lot of them. Jeffrey Wright, David Bowie, Benicio del Toro, Dennis Hopper, Gary Oldman, Michael Wincott, Claire Forlani, Parker Posey, Courtney Love, Tatum O'Neal's in the movie. Willem Dafoe is in the movie. Sam Rockwell plays a thug in quotes in the movie. Um, interesting movie about a very interesting person. Who I didn't know a lot about. I had to do kind of like a crash course in who Basquiat was and what his artwork was and how profound he was and how popular he became. How his star was a meteoric rise right away. Yeah, what an interesting film. Let's check out the special features on this release. We've got obviously this is a 4K UHD release. There's an audio commentary featuring Schnabel and writer and curator Julia Daniolo Vallen. 4K restoration of the 1996 theatrical version. New interview with actor Jeffrey Wright. That's cool. Interview from 1996 with Schnabel and actor David Bowie. You have David Bowie playing Andy Warhol in this film. So that's fascinating. I just saw Factory Girl where we had Guy Pearce playing Andy Warhol. Now I've seen David Bowie play Andy Warhol. But yeah, that's the movie Basquiat, uh, about Jean-Michel Basquiat. So now we've got Sean Baker. For those of you who are longtime listeners, longtime viewers here on Chasing Labels, Stephen and I were fortunate enough to interview Sean Baker at one point and talk about him and his love for physical media and his career and stuff like that. And this was before Anora, way before Anora had come out, and probably before he had even was making Anora. And we were lucky enough to have him here on Chasing Labels. So let me actually look up um, which episode he was on for those of you listening, for those of you who want to go back. That will probably only be in audio form. But actually, most definitely only will be in audio form. So you're going to have to go and look through the archives on Apple Podcast or wherever you're listening to the show on in podcast form. Luckily, we do keep a list of guests, because or else I would be completely lost. Let me see. Sean Baker was episode number 70. So episode 70, way back when, would be Sean Baker. So that was forever ago at this point. That was not quite 100 episodes ago, but you know what I'm saying. So we had Sean Baker here on Chasing Labels. He's our friend. I like to think so. It was a great time. There's a picture of Steve and I and him during the during the video chat. Super cool guy, obviously. Big physical media fan. We talked all about that and all about his work. But one of his films at the time, which did not have, or at least I don't think it had a release. Let me check. I don't think it had a release, was Prince of Broadway. So Prince of Broadway is a movie that he did early on in his career. And it's a movie that we talked a little bit about. Yeah, so Prince of Broadway never had a Blu-ray release. I never even had a DVD release. And obviously now it's got a Blu-ray release here from Criterion. This is just a Blu-ray release. So a raw, disarmingly moving slice of neorealism, this early career triumph from DIY author Sean Baker plunges into the world of West African immigrant Lucky and his Armenian Lebanese boss Levon, two unlikely friends who peddle knockoff designer goods in Manhattan's wholesale district, when a long-forgotten ex forces him to take care of a young son he didn't even know he had. Lucky must figure out how to become a father without losing his edge in the counterfeit merch game, capturing the chaos of urban life through expressive handheld camera work, remarkably naturalistic performances, and flashes of manic humor. Prince of Broadway is one of Baker's most vivid explorations of the illusionary nature of the American dream. And this movie came out in 2008. Obviously not quite his first film, but certainly an early film from Sean Baker. We've got two audio commentaries, one featuring Baker and the other featuring producer and co-writer Darren Dean, associate producer and actor Victoria Tate, and actor Karen Karagulian. New introduction by Sean Baker, two documentaries on the making of the film, restoration demonstration featuring Baker and Coco. Plus, there's an essay by film critic Robert Daniels. Robert Daniels, someone who I follow on social media. I follow him on Letterboxd. We actually have had his partner, Mariah Gates. Mariah Gates, who is the founder of the hashtag Noirvember. We had her on during 1 November for Noirvember. I've known her for many, many years. She's been a guiding light through my life through cinema for a very, very long time. Truly one of the best ever. So that's very interesting. So there's an essay by him, and this is a fascinating release. I'm glad to get it. I still have a bunch of Sean Baker films stacked up somewhere around me that I'm not sure quite where they are. But we talked to him about his film Takeout, which at the time had just gotten the Criterion release from Criterion. So this would have been around 2022, which is when we talked to him here on Chasing Labels. And yeah, Takeout, which is one of his earliest films, really good film as well. So you've got Takeout, you've got Prince of Broadway, and now you have Anora. So you got 3 Sean Baker films in the Criterion collection. I would love to see Tangerine get a Criterion release. that would be great. I know there is a second sight Blu-ray release of that already. He actually told us about that release before it had come out. He told us about that at that time. It's been out now for forever. But Anora is his newest film from 2024. It was one of my favorite films of 2024. I think it was in my top 15. And this is a an interesting film. Contemporary cinema's foremost chronicler of American dreams and schemers hustling on the margins of capitalist promise, Sean Baker reaches new heights of mastery with this audacious and Cinderella story, a whirlwind neorealist screwball comedy with an aching heart, and an electric Star is Born performance. Mikey Madison soars as Anora, an enterprising, ferociously foul-mouthed Brooklyn erotic dancer and sex worker whose prince not so charming comes along in the form of a Russian oligarch's wild child son. This is the beginning of the fractured fairy tale, also featuring standout performances from Karen Karagulian, Yura Borisov, and Vasha Tavmasian. That turns the cruel realities of class inside out. Winner of the Palme d'Or at the 2024 Cannes Film Festival, Anora confirms Baker as one of our preeminent auteurs. There was a lot of pushback when this was announced. I don't know why. There's a lot of gatekeeping when it comes to Criterion from collectors and film fans and people in general, and I've never quite understood why. Criterion has shown that they've put out anything and everything. And they put out anything and everything. There is like a mission statement or like a slogan or they're known for cult classic contemporary films or whatever the slogan is, but we've known that Criterion puts out anything and everything really at this point. They've got over 1,200 releases in their catalog. I mean, like, what are we talking about here? There was a some pushback against this being announced already, instead of some other things that have that aren't in the collection yet or that need releases and whatnot. But for those of you listening on Chasing Labels, you kind of know the game so far. When it comes to the boutique labels, it's what you're able to acquire. You know what I mean? What you're able to acquire when you acquire it and all that kind of stuff. You know that's part of the game. I don't have to explain that to any of you. So obviously, they were able to get this film, acquire the distribution rights right off the bat to it, and they're going to put it out. Why not? Why not? At this point, when it comes to boutique labels, when it comes to them announcing their slates or announcing releases, if there's something you don't like, just wait a little bit because they're going to announce more things very, very soon. If you don't like something, you don't have to get it. If you like something, then you get it. Whatever the case may be. I'm very loose when it comes to these things. I'm not a big fan of gatekeeping or anything like that. But Anora, if you notice also the cover art is actually an homage to Jess Franco's Vampiros Lesbos. No, yes. No, yes. Hold on. Let me check. Yes, it is. It is an homage. Homage. What's interesting is that this movie is still, I was gonna say it's still in theaters. I guess it could be in theaters somewhere, but it's still doing its awards campaigning right now, for the Oscars and other awards and whatnot. It's won a bunch of stuff in various forms. I know Mikey Madison has she's been in the Criterion Closet. She's won a bunch of awards at a bunch of, film festivals. She's been nominated for all kinds of stuff. The movie's been nominated for all kinds of stuff. Sean Baker's being nominated for all kinds of stuff. I was right. If you go to IMDb, if you go to Letterboxd right now, you look up Vampiros Lesbos, the Jess Franco film. The poster, looks like the cover of Anora, so it's an homage to that, which is very fascinating because if you know Sean Baker, he likes those types of movies. He's been in the Severance Cellar, all that kinds of stuff. But let me get back to this. Let me get to the no, I already talked about the special features, but to me, I really like this film a lot. It wasn't quite the film that I was expecting. It's more of a comedy than I was expecting. It's a comedy of circumstance, but it's a comedy up to a point where things become kind of sad You know what I mean? Like, you're laughing at some point, but then, like, oh, the situation is not something you should be laughing at. You come to that realization. It's about this young woman in Anora who meets the who like this description says. She is an erotic dancer. She's a sex worker, and she comes across this kind of young rich guy who we know by watching the movie not to take him seriously. You know what I mean? Like, we on the outside viewing the movie see this person, know the type of person this is, know that he's not sincere or serious about anything in his life, but she gets caught up in the hope of a better life, of a better world, of a of just things turning out finally great for her. And she holds on to that false hope so much throughout this movie. And that's the tragedy, and that's the tragedy of it all. That's the sadness of it all. Is holding out hope for something that's not really there. That's the heart of the movie, it really is. And man, it's kind of soul crushing when you think about how real that is. How every day in our lives we're holding out hope for perhaps something that we hope is real, but it's not. And damn, it's soul crushing when we come to the realization that it's not. Whatever it is, whether in this case it's money and extravagance, that's a whole other theme. This theme of capitalism has duped us into this idea that money is the key to happiness. Money is the key to everything because money runs the capitalist world. You know what I mean? You need it. You need it to be happy. You need it to survive. You need it to live. And this movie hits on that a lot. Um, yeah, the acting's great. I really liked the movie a lot. I know not perhaps not a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people did not. Some people didn't like the depiction of the sex working aspect of it, and or the erotic dancing of it as well, and how that world is portrayed in the film. It's not really done in a truly authentic way. If you have any type of experience in that world, you understand that. But yet again, it is a narrative movie. You know what I mean? It is a fictional film, so I kind of give it a little leeway in that regard. I didn't mean to talk about Anora so much. I really haven't been able to express my thoughts about Anora in any grand way. So I've just done that a little bit. I'm going to get this release day, maybe not day one, but it's going to be high priority release for this year for me. That and the Prince of Broadway, of course. So these are the April releases from Criterion. We have The Prince of Broadway, we have Basquiat, we have Anora, we have Jean de Florette / Manon of the Spring, two films by Claude Berri, Chungking Express, and we've got Some Like It Hot, and we have Ugetsu. Um, Chungking Express, Some Like It Hot, and Ugetsu 4K UHD upgrades, while the other three films are films that are entering the collection for the first time. So that is it here for Chasing Labels episode / spy number 156. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Wherever you are, you can find this on the podcast feeds, whether it be on Apple Podcasts, whether it be on Google or Spotify, or wherever the case may be. Pretty much wherever podcasts are found, you can, of course, listen to it here on the YouTube channel Chasing Labels. You can watch the live stream here. I will, of course, be back here in 2 weeks for another episode. That will be on probably the normally scheduled time of Monday. Let me see when that actually when that date actually is. So that will be, I believe, the 3rd of February, tentatively. That's when I will be back in, February 3rd, 2025, for those of you listening in the future. But this coming Monday, which is the 27th, we will be doing our Unwatched Pile episode. Steven and I will be reteaming to do the Unwatched Pile episode. We will have a guest on at that time, and we will be choosing the theme of, I think, Oscar Best Picture nominees that we haven't seen that are in our collections, and then pairing it up with something else. I believe that is the tentative plan for that. So that will be January 27th at 9 p.m. EST, streaming here on Chasing Labels YouTube channel. So with all of that being said, thank you all once again, and hey, keep on watching those movies because I know I will.